This episode of the Primal Scream Podcast is brought to you by It Works independent distributor Kathy Sculla. Have you tried that crazy wrap thing? It tightens, tones, and firms any area from the neck down. It Works also provides a wide variety of premium supplements, along with a full skincare line. I personally use their multivitamins and greens, and if you're interested in learning more about It Works products or the business opportunity, call or text Kathy at 319-360-2009 or go to her website, kathysculla.myitworks.com. That's CATHYSKALA.myitworks.com.
Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
Ready? Welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And today we are going to do, it's going to be a mixture of things. There's going to be some life coaching. There's going to be some, what do you call it with the rocks? With the gems.
Hot stone massage?
Not hot stone massage. You know what? Maybe we should just introduce Jenny. Jenny, you are a life coach, correct?
Yes.
Tell the people, like, who are you and where are you located and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Murphy. I'm an integrative life coach. I own No Limits Life Coaching based out of the Cherry Building in Suite 123.
Suite 123.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Okay, so I had a question for you. I was dying to ask this all day because I was just looking up life coaches. I'm like, oh, what the hell does a life coach do exactly? Because I had some preconceptions going in, and most of them are pretty much true. I think maybe you can correct me. But what I saw on YouTube was, I'm really hoping that you put a much better face on what is on YouTube about life coaches, because when I watched a few, I'd probably say 15 or so, I was getting a lot of Tammy Faye Baker, like, let me sell you something, I'm going to make your life perfect. What does a life coach do?
Before you answer that question, the radio in the background?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot. I don't even hear it.
It's just a little bit.
No. You want to just turn it off, Chuck? That's fine.
I don't know. It depends on how much you hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? Our great friend Chuck Kavanaugh is here, and he's kind of like our sound guy. Thanks, Chuck.
What percentage does he get by doing that?
The man.
What percentage?
Oh, yeah.
Our
5%. There you go.
You went too low, Chuck. Too low.
Never sell it so low.
I guess I've known life coaches before and have met them, but my perception of life coaches was somebody helping people in particular cases through a rough time in their life find just a positive path, find themselves kind of out of the darkness, so to speak. Go ahead. How would you kind of, put it all into words?
You're both right and you're both wrong. So there's
perfect,
because there's no one formula for coaching. That would be the one thing I would say. There are the mass emotional appeal coaches out there that's their MO, that they are the more Tammy Faye Baker. I can't even say it. So that's how much
Tammy
it repulses me. I can't even say it.
I never knew she was a life coach.
No,
she's not
the
really.
ladies
But
that I saw on YouTube were just caked with makeup.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
They
the
look
drama.
super fake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know what you
eyebrows.
mean there, and there's so there's that variety out there, and quite frankly, they are very useful to certain people in certain types of situations. So I'm not putting them down at all. Other life coaches are there for crisis. Like I have, I lost my job. I lost my, it's a bad country song. I lost everything. Right. So now what do I do?
Sure.
And then there's people who are kind of in my variety of coaching, which is like more along the lines of, you've got a great friggin' life. Like your life is pretty darn good, but maybe you feel like you're missing something. So maybe I've got a great job, but like I go in there every day and I just think, there's got to be more. Like there's just something else out there for me to be doing.
Well, a lot of people. I
feel like I should be doing a podcast and not just working a 9 to 5. Those kind of people. That's the kind of people I work with primarily. Cool about coaching because there's not really kind of a cookie cutter for who needs coaching.
And so does that runs all the gamuts of like religions, things like that? Because my first thought is I can imagine a church saying, "Well, you know what you need in your life." Jesus, and you're good to go.
Let's not,
So I mean, I'm not going
That's-
negative at all. I'm just
I
saying
can't
some
get
people
sucked
feel
into
that
that.
way. I'm just saying, but I can see somebody saying, "This is the guidance you need. Is this?"
Yeah, and there's an aspect of ministry actually that does happen with that. So, I mean, you're totally spot on. And for some people, that is where they can find the help that they need. That my life feels off track. I need ministry, and so they'll go and a very powerful minister, a good minister will help them find that direction. Other people just don't identify that way, and either they don't identify with their religion as being something that can help that, or they've maybe tried religion and it didn't help them, or they're just not religiously affiliated, so they look for something
So
else.
with life coaching, are you? My conception of it, are you like taking people? You meet with somebody, and you ask them what do they feel like they need in their life, or they don't know how to express it, and then you kind of take them by the hand and say, okay, in order for you to get to this goal, what I think you either want or you've told me, these are the steps that I think that you could take to get there. Or how does it work?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, you started out strong. So there's a little bit of that, because it's usually, I do a lot of fact finding with people, and kind of the structure of that is people will call me and I'll do a 30-minute consult with them, because not everybody is in a place with whatever they're asking that they need coaching. Some people may need to start with some sort of counseling, or they may need a financial planner. I mean, they may need something other than what I'm talking about based on their primary problem. So I'll kind of say, all right, what is that question that you're really trying to answer right now? And then I'll decide, does that fit into what I'm comfortable coaching about? So if their primary issue is relationships, well, I'm twice divorced. I'm not I don't know that I'm the expert on relationships, but I do have a network that I refer to that I've got some great colleagues that are phenomenal relationship coaches. And so I'll say, if that's really what you want to work on, let me refer you to my friend Lauren, or let me refer you out to this person. And so from there, we summarize, all right, so in 3 months, maybe you'd like to be here. In 3 years, you'd like your life to look like this. And once I've got that captured, I'll decide, is this something I would feel confident that I could support them with the way that I approach these problems? Is this my kind of client? And so then we go from there. And from there, the kind of how we solve it is very collaborative, because I don't ever tell anybody, go do this and your problem is solved. That's not my job.
Right.
My job is to say, what do you think would help you with this, and ask some questions, and they'll start throwing things up. And this is where I become really helpful. They'll start throwing things up that are maybe based in fear. Well, I would love to go and do this, but I'm afraid of this failing, or this happening, or my husband leaving me, my wife leaving me, my kids not understanding,
Sure.
not having enough money, any fear that we can run into. And so then it becomes, what are the different avenues, and how can I help you get past those fears in a way that allow you to just take the action, just try it. Now, I tend to be really, really, really risk tolerant. And so I do crazy things in my own life. So I always have to, I'm not real great at always giving really super risk averse people great advice, because I'm like, go for it, just do it, quit your job and go for it. And they're like, oh my God, I can't do that. So
What about insurance?
I can see my wife passing out cold right there.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of how I got into coaching, was I did that. I just jumped in the deep end instead of doing it. So, and so I work with people.
So how did
that way.
you get started? So how did you get into life coaching?
Like how I set up my own little segue there.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's beautiful.
Well, I got into coaching because I started being coached. I mean, that was kind of how I got into it. It was about, I'm trying even to think now. It was about 4.5 years ago. And I had been starting to ask some questions kind of along the lines that I just talked about, where I was like, I got a great life. I had a great job at a big corporation here in town. I had a family. I mean, I literally had, the 2-story house in suburbia with a white picket fence, SUV in the garage, and the Labrador in the backyard.
And
I
you
mean,
had
I
blue hair
had
back
it.
then too?
I did not have blue hair, and I only had one tattoo. So that was a pre-deployment gift for myself from my military days. And so I, and I was feeling like, oh, there's more. I don't know what it is. And I'd gone through a whole series of things in my life from, I was in the military. I did a couple of combat deployments. I had been married and divorced. I'd been a step parent already once. I was now a step parent again with my own child. I had recovered from alcoholism about now 11 years ago, but at that point about 6-7 years. I'd kind of gone through some stuff and put myself through a ringer. I was very, very spiritually disconnected, and I took that in a lot of different directions, vacillating from being very, very agnostic, almost atheist, to becoming Catholic when I was 25. So, I mean, I ran both ends of the gamut, you know, and so I did a lot. I just kept, so, I mean, again, I'll go back to, I'm very risk tolerant, so I do things all in. I just do them. And so I went and I was just asking some questions. I started taking a couple of classes, and I was having some really good discussions with some people that were in my circle. And one of my girlfriends contacted me. I was actually on a business trip in Australia. It was terrible. I was in Australia, and my friend said, I connected with this woman, and you just need to talk to her. She's going to be in town, and she's doing these sessions, and I want you to talk to her. And I was like, and I was like, well, all right, whatever. And so I called and I made the appointment to meet with her, and it was at the old Spirits Journey down on First Avenue near A1 Rental. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was a spirit, like a metaphysical store.
I used to work at the Lynn County Detention or youth shelter right down the street.
Yeah, okay. And she was in there in this little room in the back. She just was traveling through, and I met her. And she immediately started, and she's a psychic and a coach, and so she was doing a little bit of both in the session I did with her. And I had my own preconceived notions about psychics and intuitives and all this like woo-woo, what I called bullshit at the time, stuff going on. Can we cuss?
Oh,
okay.
Jesus.
All right. I thought so.
Completely explicit.
Okay,
it's totally explicit.
I thought that's what I read. So, so I go in there, and I went in with my own preconceived notions, and she starts telling me all this stuff, and she's pretty spot on, and I liked her perspective. I could relate to what she was saying. So that began a relationship of about 3.5 years of coaching, where I finally hired her on the premise of, I don't like my job, I need a new job, I want to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And she was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about your marriage. I'm going to want to talk about marriage. I want to talk about a different job. Yeah. And she said, no, let's talk about your marriage. And, so 3 years later I was divorced, but it was just it led me down this path of looking at every aspect of my life and really deciding what fit and what didn't fit. And so that took me through 3 years, because despite being, really an all-in kind of person, I wasn't taking my second marriage lightly, when it came to the divorce side of things. And that became a major focus of our work together, because I needed to get that straight. Probably about a year into it, I decided I was going to be a coach. About 6 months later, I set up the LLC that is now my company. And so I was doing that already. I started taking clients. That was not a problem. It was committing to it full time and really arranging my life the way I wanted to. So at one point she said to me, when I asked, God, I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. And she said, Jen, I'm just going to tell you, you need to be a life coach. And I was like, what? I was just blown away. I'm like, I can't do what you do. She's like, you're already doing it. Like, what are you thinking? So I started doing it, and I went and I got certified in, I started my certification program in March of 2012, and I was still working my full-time job. And my whole idea was, I'm going to do this part-time, and eventually someday, after I get my son through high school and college, and he was 3 at the time.
That sounds familiar.
I get all this, and everybody does this. Maybe someday I'll do it after everyone else is taken care of, after I've got all of these societally expected obligations done. I'll do what I want to do for myself and live my dream, and I'll be 86 by the time I do it. And it'll be great. I'll be the world's first 86-year-old life coach. It'll be phenomenal, right? So that was my plan. But I just wasn't happy with that idea, really. And so what happened then was I linked up with Illuminations Healing Arts Center is actually across the hall from here. And that was where I started.
Oh, cool.
They asked me to sit on their board. Their first instantiation was to be a nonprofit. And they asked me to sit on their board. And I said, sure, I'll do that. That'd be great. And what they were looking for was somebody who had more of the practical corporate background, to kind of counteract some of, there was just a lot of personalities, and I was going to be the token corporate person. And so they didn't know what they were getting into,
absolutely.
I wish I had it with me. I have a picture of myself from my corporate ID badge, and I look at that and I'm like, who the fuck is that? I just don't even recognize myself anymore. It's really, really fun. So I kind of started out with that, and then that started to evolve, and I committed to renting an office there part-time. I was going to share it with someone. And then they needed someone to own the retail area in there. And I was like, I've always wanted to have a retail space, always. That would be so fun. And so I went home, and it was my anniversary. And my, how long have we been married? 6 years anniversary, I think, at this point. And it was my anniversary the day that I was just like, I want to do this. I feel like I need to do this. And I told my husband, and his exact words were, not no, but fuck no. We are not doing this. You are not leaving your job. And he just was like, no way, this can't even. And he wasn't being it like, I'm the controlling male and I can't let you do it. He was just like, financially, we can't do it.
Right.
We're not in a good spot. You're crazy. Like, how could you conceive of doing this? Sure. And so I said, I don't know, but it's going to happen. And he was like, all right, show me how. I mean, which I have ultimate respect for this man. And he and I actually have a really good relationship now. So I'm not like the man hating, ex-wife or anything. So, but he, and he was actually pretty supportive through the process. I mean, we worked it out. We came up with the money. I quit my job. I gave notice, and I will never forget my boss's face. I walked in and I asked him to talk, and so he came to my office, which was kind of funny, and he sat down. He's like, what's up? And I think he thought I wanted to talk about this next project idea I might have. And I worked in international strategy at the time, and so I had a lot of things going on. And I said, well, I'm going to give my 30 days notice. And his whole face was like, and he said, what are you going to do? Or like, are you going to work for a competitor? Do I need to walk you out? What's that?
Oh, sure.
I said, no, I'm going to be a life coach, and I'm going to own a metaphysical store. He was like,
you're kidding.
What?
You're so full of shit. Stop pulling my leg. Yeah. You want some coffee?
He was just, and he walked out, like after we finished this discussion, he walked out and he came back in about 2 minutes later and was like, now tell me this again, because I got to explain this to our VP, and I don't know how to explain it.
Did they beg you to stay? Were they like really surprised and were like, hey, we don't want to lose you? Or?
I mean, there were tears, and there were begging, and there was, prostrate, throwing themselves on the ground, and, all that stuff.
As there should be.
Right.
I mean, it was hard.
Embarrassing. It sounds horribly embarrassing.
About me leaving my last job, that's how I imagine it.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly like that. But I'd like to imagine it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they were sad to see me go, but they were also really, really supportive. I was mentoring at the time with our COO of my business division, and he was just like, he said, the only thing I'm going to ask you is, are you sure you understand why you're leaving? Because there's a lot of security here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he was actually on the brink of retirement, and he says, is the truth be told, I wish I would have done what you're doing right now when I was your age.
Well, don't you think that's
awesome?
Of the main theme that a ton of people have?
Yeah.
It's the security of that awesome corporate or factory job that a lot of people think is the jewel. That's the thing to strive for. But then we all get there, or a lot of us get there, and it's soulless. You're not creating. Well, some people are creating stuff, but it's not your own. You're working for somebody and not feeling fulfilled. And you're like, if I leave, it's like I'm almost cheating on my. It's like I am doing something detrimental to my. For me, it'd be my wife or my kids. How could I walk away from me $60,000 job and be like, I'm gonna do podcasting. My wife would be like, where's the money coming in at? It makes me happy.
We're gonna live on love, baby.
Yeah. I mean, and that security, that's kind of like the iron gate that hardly anybody. Some people get through, but you did, but not a lot of people get through.
So is that how you know Nick Rosine is because military stuff?
No. I met Nick when I started CrossFit.
Okay.
And my friends that I worked with, actually one day we were at a bowling thing, a Bowl for Kids' Sake. I was trying to think of the name of it, a Bowl for Kids' Sake, and they were talking about, and I noticed both of them getting in really good shape, honestly, and I was just like, you guys look great. I mean, they just did. They look great. They went from kind of like sitting behind the desk, not in the best of shape, to they're muscle-bound heroes, and I'm just like, what's going on with you guys? And so they were great walking advertisements for CrossFit, quite honestly. And they're like, you need to come check it out. Just you would love it. With your background, you would love it. And I was like, all right, I'll come check it out. And I did. I absolutely loved it. In fact, I have a funny story, if I can tell this little funny story.
Go for it.
So, you know how it kicks your ass. I mean, it's just like a grueling workout some nights. And one night I was coming home, and I think I'd only been doing it about maybe 2 weeks. And so I went from like couch potato to CrossFit, right? And so I was just like super, probably worst shape I'd ever been in my life. And I go and I'm coming home. I have no memory of what we did that night, but I'm driving home, and it was probably like, it was on Blair's Ferry at the time, and I lived on Boyson and C, roughly, in that area.
Okay.
I'm driving home, and I'm zonked out of my mind. I don't even really know that I'm driving. And I kind of pull into my neighborhood, and I pull up into my garage, and I realize there's a cop car behind me with its lights blazing. And I'm like, oh, shit. What did I do? You know, I have no idea what I did. And so I go to get out of my car, and I get, stay in the car, ma'am.
Whoa.
Oh, crap. You know, and the lights are still going. And I'm like, God, my whole fucking neighborhood is
You're in your
seeing
driveway?
this. You know, I'm in my driveway.
That's awesome.
You know, and I know immediately they're like, oh, she fell off the wagon, you know. So, so I'm kind of giggling about this a little bit because I have no idea why I got pulled over. And then I start to suspect, I'm like, I was probably speeding because it's like 30 miles an hour in Boyson there. And I have no idea how fast I was going. So they come up to the car, and they're like, we see your license and registration. So I give them all this stuff. And he's like, so you were speeding a little bit back there in Boyce. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, and you're kind of weaving a little bit. Where are you coming from? You know, and I look like baked over hell, you know. I mean, I'm like, my eyes are all bleary. And I'm like, oh my God, he thinks I'm drunk. This is hilarious to me. I'm like, well, I just finished a workout at CrossFit. And he goes, oh, immediately knows what I'm talking about. He goes, that's cool. I'll give your stuff back. Have a good night. Changed. Yeah, his whole demeanor was like, I get it. And he's like, yeah, he's like, we do CrossFit too. I guess they have a program through the department. They do it. I don't know. But he says, yeah, we do CrossFit too. I know exactly what you're going through right now. He's like, just make sure you slow down in the future. We'll see you later. Have a good night. He takes off. I'm like, oh my God. So
I never thought CrossFit would get me out of a ticket.
I know. I was like, thank you, CrossFit.
So the new 2.2 is actually closer to where you lived before.
Yeah, I think it would have been. So I probably still would have gotten pulled over. But yeah. So then I asked the guy, I'm like, how long have you been following me? Because I mean, like, did I not even notice a cop car behind me? He's like, oh, we just turned the lights on when we got in the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, thanks for that. You know?
Nice.
So
That's
it was
a good
pretty
one.
fun. Yeah, it was pretty fun. So
well, hopefully you can get back into it at some point.
yeah, I hope so. I do. It's a great
I think you
workout,
could create
so.
a nice CrossFit gym in the Cherry Building. Be pretty snazzy.
Nice, yeah.
We have Katie upstairs.
Yeah, I was gonna say I heard
on the
somebody's
third
moving
floor.
upstairs. Yeah.
And she looks like a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
She's pretty
It's a good thing
stout.
there's a floor in between her gym and here. I would think that it would be pretty loud.
Loud, low.
I mean, if I'm thinking CrossFit, you're dropping the weights and getting crazy and grunting.
Oh, and you drop those weights pretty good.
The music's
too.
going pretty loud.
I don't know.
Not
I mean,
so
we've
much
got
like that.
Ecolips upstairs, and there's a bunch of musicians up there, so we get the bass playing a lot. So they play
We
their
met.
bass
What was
when
that guy?
they're
I forget the
break.
gentleman's name who played bass. And then there's a rapper. I forget his name.
Jeremy or Jeremiah or Bill are the bass players, and then I think it's Avery. That what is his rap name though? He's got a really cool rap name. Tino Cruz is his rap name.
That's right.
And his
we got a
CD is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, my partner's got it at his house. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah.
And
so-
see, Steve Schreiber gave it to us. And I was just, you're always wary. Like, oh, you did your own CD? Okay. You know,
Yeah.
especially rap. Some rap can be,
Yeah.
I mean, and I grew up
I
with
thought he was
hip hop and
great,
rap. It
yeah.
was fantastic. I
Yeah.
really
We were
enjoyed
talking about
it.
this the other day when we walked through that. I used to work in a factory. Walking through Ecolips, I'm like, all right, this is kind of familiar.
Yeah.
Here's a machine over there. People are wearing hairnets. I didn't have to wear a hairnet.
Yeah.
Not that you would need one.
Right. But to have Steve know what the individual people, like what their passion was, and to see guitars hung up on the wall at the places they work, and one guy's working on some artwork or a billboard of some kind, I thought, this is really odd. This is not the normal place to work, and I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and like Jeff Kleinnick said that when I had dinner with his family a couple weeks ago, and I said, so you've been at Ecolips for a while now. I associate you with Ecolips now almost. And I said, what do you think that is? It's like, it's Steve. You don't have many bosses like that who could just hang out with you and he's just really down to earth. You would know that he sold $1 million company, and you wouldn't even realize things like that.
Yeah.
I was like, he strikes me that way, you know.
All right.
So
Enough of that stuff.
yeah, pish posh.
Back to our guest. So, do you get people that walk in here and they're nervous and they're like, okay, I want to come in here, but I totally think it's horseshit. Do you have anybody that feels like if they're almost like they're being dragged in and then there's a lot of resistance? Do you ever work with somebody who's got a lot of resistance and then you win them over? Or are they totally open for it? They're ready to go?
Yeah, no, by the time I get somebody who's really committed to a program, because what happens, I talked about I do a 30-minute consult with people. Well, then from that, like, I won't work with anybody for less than 6 months. And so I ask them to make a commitment to themselves and an investment in themselves for a 6-month period of time. And the reason I do it for 6 months is because, transformation doesn't happen in a session. It just doesn't. I mean, if you come in and you're like, I want to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life, and there's these 15 areas that I'm not happy with, and there's this one that I think is just great. I want everyone to be like that. I'm like, well, 60 minutes isn't going to make that happen. So, and my story is much longer than 6 months even. And, it just because I went in depth with everything. And so I've got clients that have worked with me for 6 months and been perfectly fine to kind of move on. And I've had clients that have been with me since I started. Since 2 years ago. So, and
does it turn into like a friendship? And like Todd, if he wasn't in my life, influenced me. Like before I met him, I had other friends that were. Well, right now I have friends that are complete polar opposites of Todd.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I totally enjoy you, and you're a really good friend of mine, and I also totally enjoy you, and the two of you really could not hang out together.
Yeah.
But so does that what it kind of turns into? Yeah. Is there, your client kind of looks at you as this really positive friendship that is created?
Yeah, because what I try to provide for people is that kind of unbiased, unconditional support, but also unbiased, unconditional, really good bullshit meter. I'm not going to let you lie to yourself. If someone comes in, it's like, relationships are an easy example. They come in, I met the man of my dreams, and they proceed to then give me a description that is everything except what they've described previously as what they want in a relationship. I'm not going to just smile and nod and tell them it's okay. I'm going to point out to them, which I think a good friend would do, but I'm going to point out to them, I'm going to stop you right there. And I'll say that a lot. My clients will tell you, I'm going to stop you right there. And let's talk about whether that's really true or not. Let's think about, is that, let's look at what you really came up with when we talked about this before, and people will get mad at that. And I don't mind that. It's fine if they get mad, because my job is not to make them happy. My job is to help them see the truth of what they really want in their life.
And
so friendships,
their goal.
Yeah, because for them to come in and say, I want this perfect relationship in my life, and again, I'm kind of using a bad example since I just said I'm not a relationship coach, but they come in, and that's one aspect maybe of what they're looking for, is I want to improve my marriage, I want to do this, that, or the other thing, and then they come in and they do something that's totally counter to that. I'll remind them, well, let's go back and think about your goal. Because your goal was really to work on this aspect, and you're doing everything you can to sabotage that.
So you kind of help people get out of their own way, so to speak.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're so good as humans at doing that, like, oh, I want to go and be successful in this area, but let me go ahead and sabotage myself and not pay any attention to that.
Yeah, Todd and I, we've done a few different things that, and we've talked about in different podcasts where when we were younger, we did personal training, and we got certified, and we know what to eat and how to work out, and yet we struggle like our clients did when we were helping people with just having the motivation like, I get on for work, come home, I see my kids, and then that whole feeling of working out is like, gone. Yeah. I'm not doing it.
I'll sit on the couch and have some beer instead, a bag of chips, and you're sitting there going, I know better.
And you can rationalize it too, because like, I had a long week. Sure. I had a long day. I don't have to do that today. I'll get back on it tomorrow.
And when I'm sitting here, I'm going, okay, tomorrow really sounds great to work out after work. Tomorrow does. Yeah. And every night I say that. Tomorrow sounds great. Yep.
And see, I've given my wife some kudos recently, because she stopped saying things like, oh, I've had a bad day, I'm going to do this. And she's gotten to a mode of not saying that anymore and actually just doing stuff that she needs to do.
Yeah.
So,
that's good. That's an extreme example of great self-willpower, that internal fortitude to say, I'm just going to keep going because I really want this. But just a lot of people get to a place in their life where it's really hard to get off of the cycle, that your wife was able to break on her own. And so that's where a great coach can come in and help with breaking that cycle. Because what I'll do with my 6-month clients is they'll come in every week. And so if I had a client today, I would say, all right, at the towards the end of our session, what are you going to work on for the next week that's going to get you closer to your goals? And that'll be based on the stuff that we talked about in that session. And if they're truly clueless, as I just don't even know what to work on, that's when I step in and say, well, let's try this. Let's work on this exercise. Or you mentioned that you wanted to take this action, so why don't you try to do that consistently every day between now and then? I'm a huge believer that the small changes are the ones that bring about the big changes. I mean, my whole revolution in my life, complete evolution in my life, started with simply buying some white organic cotton sheets. And that was the first thing I did for myself. And then that changed into I was going to buy just organic fruits and vegetables. And then that changed into this whole change in my eating patterns. And then that changed into, well, now I'm going to start doing yoga more regularly. And that, I mean, just like it was the snowball effect that then got me to a place where when they told me, all right, you want to run the retail store. And I was like, yep, let's figure it out. Let's do it. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to coach. And, and I jokingly say, and this is not untrue, I went from making 6 figures to 3 figures overnight, and so it was just, and I was like, I couldn't be happier, just my whole life changed. I could go through the whole list of it, but just, I sold my house. I owned 4 houses when I left my job and sold all of them. My ex-husband got a couple in the divorce, lost my husband as a result of all of this.
Well, you said he was pretty supportive at first.
Yeah, he was.
Was it just too big a shift, too fast for him, so to speak? Yeah. You don't have to answer anything that'd be too revealing.
It was. We're both pretty open about what happened. I think we were growing at different rates is what ultimately happened. And my ex-husband, my son's father, he's an amazing man in his own right, and he's got his own really good stuff going on, but we just got to a place where he was one that was very intolerant of risk, and I was very risk tolerant. And so that manifested in a lot of different ways. And, one of them was through the course of me taking this job, and I was just ready to, parent my son and do this job, and that was about it. And quite frankly, I wasn't giving him the attention he needed through the course of all of this either. So I fully take my, responsibility in my part of that. But if we look back at our relationship, all of that had started much earlier than my leaving my job. That was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And so when we divorced, I had a question about this come in today, actually. When we divorced, one of our probably second or third conversations we had about saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and separate was our son comes first no matter what. No matter what. And so we have a slightly unconventional even divorce decree when it comes to that, because Alexander, my son, who is the most amazing 7-year-old in the world, I have to say that, he's, he is forefront in everything. His father and I were on the phone today for probably an hour total working out how we're going to handle him going on 7/12s for the next 2 weeks. So just, things like that. So, which is not a problem, because what do we do that's best for Alexander? So we get along really well now. So
I'm telling you, I was divorced as well and had a son, and that was, I've been divorced. My parents, have each been divorced at least 3 times apiece, if not 4.
You should be a relationship coach.
Now I've been divorced, but the same thing. When you put the kids first, it kind of works itself out. Whatever things you had going on between the two of you, or whatever egos were bruised, things like that. If you put the kid first, it seems like everything else kind of fades away. So
and
good for you guys.
Yeah, it has, and it's every once in a while, of course, we have our fights and stupid stuff comes up and we get in each other's face, but it's so rare anymore, and it's so much easier to diffuse since we're not living together. Yeah, because I can just not respond to a text, right. And vice versa. So it works out pretty well.
Do you ever we just had Joshua Coburn on the other day, inspirational speaker, goes around to different schools. He's written a book, Inspiration on Demand. Great, really super neat guy. Started out with body modifications. He was doing body modifications to people, and he's tatted up from head to toe. And then he transitioned into more of a corporate thing. And at one point, I asked him, "So, did you ever go to college? Did you ever get a degree? Because what you're doing is kind of like therapy." And I know people that have gone to college to get their therapy doctorate or whatever. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. Do you ever get, and I'm assuming correct me if I'm wrong, you did not get that.
No. So what I've got, my schooling is I've got an undergrad in criminology, which I whatever. So I have a master's in business. And then I've got all kinds of other certifications. I'm a certified personal and executive coach through the Center for Applied Positive Psychology. And then I've got I'm an ordained minister. I've got I went through a year-long course that resulted in me being what's called a spiritual healer and earth steward. And then as a result of that, I'm also an ordained minister. I'm a Reiki master. I'm awesome. I mean, I don't know where you get a certificate for that, but I think we should make one. So,
do you ever get any blowback from
No. I mean, I don't.
Never gotten any
No, I mean, my clients, to be quite honest, and you may come across this in your research, you don't have to be certified to be a life coach. There's no requirement. There's no governing board out there right now. There's a couple of different kind of authorities out there in the community. International Coaches Federation is one that I tend to affiliate to a little more closely because that's who my certifier affiliated to. But either one of you could hang out a shingle and say you're a life coach today.
But you would suggest going through some of those things so you had some kind of background and understanding of what you were doing instead of me saying, my parents have been divorced multiple times. I have a good idea of what it takes to have a good marriage.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and some people just really do have kind of natural talents and abilities for helping people, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm not one that condemns it, but I felt it was personally just kind of my own moral, ethical code that I wanted to go through and kind of get some training and get some guidelines and understand the framework for this and what I was dealing with. And
maybe you might have a misconception of what you could give somebody.
Right.
What could you really expect to help somebody with?
Yeah, because there's a big difference between coaching, colting. I don't know what that is. Consulting, mentoring, therapy. There's a big difference. And in fact, in my contract that I have clients sign and go over as part of our agreement for the 6 months, I spell out the differences because I think it's really important for people to understand that. And that's one of the elements that I go through with people when we're signing up is just if at any time I think that we're drifting into something that requires counseling, I'm going to tell you that and I'm going to refer you because that is, I'm not a therapist. I don't want to be a therapist. I considered going back for a degree in psychology. I didn't want to. I mean, quite frankly, I don't want to be a psychologist. So I think that's really careful. Now, there is times that I'll get into a consulting role with people just because something will come up that I've got expertise in. And I try to be really clear. I'm not coaching you right now. I'm offering you advice. I'm doing some consulting with you right now. It's just, so you know that this is the difference.
And is mentoring like really close to?
Yeah, it can be. In fact, coaching? I've got a coach that she works for me as an associate that I mentor coach. And so I'm helping her understand the basics of being a coach and what that looks like, how to set up and structure a session, how to write her contract, how to structure her programs and pricing. And so I'm mentoring her through that, which is a little different than the coaching that we had done prior to that, which was more about, getting past her fears and even trying to admit that she wanted to do this and, kind of going through all of those.
Helping her figure out what her target would be that would make her happy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now instead of looking at what's going to make you happy, we're looking at who's your target market, so it's really, it's just a different discussion. So.
You didn't bring the Cards Against Humanity, did you?
No. We decided not to.
Have you ever heard of Cards Against Humanity?
I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Apples to Apples?
Uh-uh.
Do you ever do anything like really negative?
Never. How dare you? Of course I do.
You're a life coach and things are very positive and you try to bring people into a positive outlook.
Apples to Apples is a really fun kid. Your son would love it.
Yeah, it's like a green box or something. Yeah, it's coming to mind.
And the person who puts the green card down or the red, I can't remember which one it is.
Whatever. It's
a Leonardo da Vinci or something like that, and then everybody picks a card or something that they think fits best with that or is funny.
Yeah.
Would fit or would make the person who's saying it laugh the hardest.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
And so that's kind of Apples to Apples. And it's a really fun kids game.
Yeah.
Cards Against Humanity is far the opposite as you can get from that. I mean, they're really really horrible.
Extremely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Extremely inappropriate. But it makes you laugh, and you're like, all right, obviously I don't want to punch somebody in the face, but that's what the card says.
Oh, yeah.
You
no,
know?
I frequently dismember people in my head. Frequently.
Okay.
Frequently.
Right. So if it brings you happiness, you should do something silly.
My son, in fact, the other day said, Mom, you really should not have so much road rage.
Nice.
My son is actually one of the wisest people I know. He comes up with some pretty good zingers.
Are you swear during road rage?
Sometimes. And where I really noticed that it was starting to come out was when we were just, I don't know, you guys have probably seen that commercial where like the mom and the daughter are driving down the road and like something happens and the kid looks at her mom. She goes, "I've got this, Mom." And she gets out and like starts yelling at this old lady driving the car in front of her and like starts calling her. Have you guys seen that?
Oh
my God.
That sounds so funny.
It's hilarious. And so it's like, remember they're watching you or something. That's some PSA bullshit. But it was, the message was kind of accurate
Right.
because the other day we're driving down the road, my son, these cars were kind of going slow and he sits up and he looks and he goes, "Why are they going so slow? God." I'm like, oh, that's me. And so I don't get too bad with it, but, between his dad and I, he's heard probably every version of the word fuck that's out there. His dad is a construction worker and, with my military exposure. And then I worked in a power plant for a while, too. And those guys have some pretty creative versions of some words, too.
Well, I swear, I was swearing so much. I remember Junior, my oldest, saying shit for the first time because I know he heard me in the car. Yeah. And that right away changed it. Thank goodness his little brothers haven't heard it, but I've turned it my road rage into quietly saying, "Wow, you're a bad driver. Oh my God, you are really a bad driver."
Yep.
And so now they do it calmly.
Yeah.
Boy, Dad, that person's in front of you. Oh, Dad, they're on their phone. Oh man, what a bad driver.
I know.
And I was like, that's so much better than what it could be.
You know what? This great segue into this. Do you feel like we need more life coaches now? I mean, have life coaches been around for a long time? Is this something that just wasn't brought up a lot or exposed in the media because we didn't have the internet and stuff like that 20, 30 years ago? Or is it because we have such shitty role models today that kids aren't getting what they need and they're just being advertised and shoved in their face? Go down this path. Go to college, get your degree, have a ton of debt, and get into the workplace.
Yeah, I love that you asked that question because life coaching as a profession has exploded over the last few years. I'm probably going to say the year wrong, but I want to say it was in 2009, and I'd have to check the date, but it wasn't that long ago. There was only 2,000 registered coaches through the International Coaches Federation. There's now almost 50,000.
Wow.
That's a huge explosion of coaches. There are so many coach training academies out there. When I was looking for who I wanted to be certified through, I literally looked for 18 months trying to sort through like what's legitimate, what's not. I was looking for a really healthy balance of like practical application, business development, and spirituality because that was just kind of how I wanted to represent myself. And I finally ended up finding it, but it just was, it has literally exploded, and it's, it's kind of, like what I said earlier, like anybody can hang a shingle out and say I'm a life coach and then can go register through the ICF, quite frankly. So it's, the why behind it, I think there's, the reason for that is that it's, kind of to your point earlier, well, I have all this experience, I can tell other people about it, and so there's varying degrees of success with that. But there's, and I also think, I hope anyway, I tend to have a cup half full kind of perspective to your point about not doing it. I do negative shit all the time, by the way. But I try to always give people the chance to do good, always. And so I always hope that people have really good bullshit meters. So that when they're looking for a coach, they're able to go like, that guy's saying he knows all this stuff about relationships, but I'm just not feeling it. I don't really, it doesn't, but someone who's really authentic, and I know a lot of coaches who really are genuinely going to be someone who's more like me, and I'm not tooting my own horn in that, but just more like me, is going to be like, what you're talking about isn't mine. I don't want your money if I can't help you. That's not going to help either of us. That's just not healthy. And so there's coaches that are going to fall on the whole spectrum of that, and some of them are going to be very good at what they do, but inexperienced in how they're delivering it, so it's not going to come out well. So I could go on about that part of the problem, but I think the driver behind it is there's a lot of lost people out there. I think we said that before we started recording a little bit. There's a lot of lost people out there, and I was one of them who, you know, we fall into, there's a formula for life, right? And, you know, for me, I was running as far and as fast as I could from the way I was raised. And I think there's some of that rebellion that happens, maybe with my age range a little bit too. But I grew up very poor. I grew up in the mountains in a very small town in California, which people are like, small town in California?
What small town?
It's called North Fork, California. It's near, I don't know if you guys are, Yosemite National Park is what it's closest to. It's about 30 minutes outside the gate.
I grew up in the Bay Area, so I have an idea.
Okay, yeah. My uncle, Al, his family's from the Bay Area, so they spend a lot of time there. My blood relative uncle Mike lived in Half Moon Bay for ages. And
that's where I got married.
Yeah. So, small
Boom.
World.
There you go.
So, yeah, I went to Fresno State for college. That's where I got my
Nice.
criminology degree. But I was born in Bakersfield, and when I was 6, my parents ruined my life by moving to the mountains. And having my baby brother. My brother, I have to have a little bit of promo for him. He's a wildland firefighter, and he's out on a fire in Yosemite right now.
Oh, he's the one in Yosemite.
Yeah.
The one in Sacramento I've been hearing a lot about, but not the one in Yosemite.
And they just actually put out a fire so my brother and sister-in-law still live in my hometown, and they just put out a fire that was threatening my hometown. And so that's been all over the internet too. So it's pretty cool.
That's got to be a little nerve-wracking.
It was I was born with terror of fire. I don't know why, and which is really crazy because then when we moved to the mountains, our only source of heat was a wood burning stove. We're totally off topic, aren't we? So
It's the best part about this podcast is what it's all about. Do what you got to do.
Now Chuck's laughing at us.
Chuck's been there. Chuck knows what's happening.
He said we can't talk about porn. We'll get there in a minute.
Sweet.
So what was I talking about?
The fear of fire.
Okay, how to fear a fire. And we had a wood-burning stove as our only source of heat the whole time I was growing up. So my parents would leave me. I was significantly older than my middle brother. We ended up having another little rugrat 2 years after him. But I would make him go outside and play with me no matter how cold it was if my parents left us home alone so that the fire would accidentally burn out and I wouldn't have to deal with it.
Oh, wow.
And my parents would come home and they would be like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Fire is scary. Leave me alone."
You know, I got a funny story about a kid who didn't like coming home to a cold house.
So I grew up in Anamosa.
Yeah.
And so my dad is a unique guy. And so for about 5 years, he was a teacher. He would take down old barns around eastern Iowa with the goal of using that lumber to build his own house. And while he was doing that, he was also digging our basement with a shovel.
Oh my goodness.
And laying the foundation by hand.
God
limestone.
bless him.
Yeah, it's still going on. Let's put it that way. So we'll see how much we want to bless him later.
But you know what? You got to give him some props because
I just said it's amazing.
No, I know, but the way you described it is like it's still ongoing. You got to get to the point of the story on why it's still an ongoing process.
Okay.
It probably wouldn't be an ongoing process.
Oh, probably. Anyways, so when I was in 7th grade, he bought. Well, see, when I was in 7th grade, it burnt down the first time. That had nothing to do with anybody else. It was arson, supposedly. They never really had a good answer for it.
Oh, the first one was. Really? It wasn't you?
Yeah, no, it wasn't me.
No, the first one was you and the second one was you.
No, geez Louise, no.
Dude, I love telling the story where you're the criminal on both.
I'm the arson for both of them?
Yeah.
No, so
That is a better story.
The second time was when I was a freshman in high school, and I remember being on the bus, going to school, stop at the middle school, drop those kids off, and heading to the high school, and hearing the volunteer fire alarm go off.
Oh, boy.
And I remember going, oh, that can't be my house. It can't happen twice.
Oh.
Go to school, in history class, somebody goes, hey, can we talk to you in the hallway? There's a phone call for you. I was like, so? And then they're like, yeah, it was my neighbor.
Oh, my God.
But so what happened was my dad bought a Canadian furnace. He was so proud of this thing.
Oh, those Canadians.
It burnt coal, natural gas, crude oil, wood, and
people.
No, that's pretty much it.
You know what? It sounds pretty awesome, and I
It's
can't believe
incredible.
you ruined it.
It took up an entire room in our basement. It
Wow.
was so big. It was like a 2-foot walking space around it. We're not living in the upper part of the house yet because it was under construction. We were in the basement. And so that day, my brother and I, we hated coming home to a dead stove because you're freezing trying to light a fire, right?
Yeah.
You've been there?
Yeah.
So,
No, I
But
never
you haven't,
did.
no,
no,
that's what
she-
she's not
Yeah, she's the opposite. She would make sure the fire would go out.
Sorry.
I would never light a fire.
That's right. She
you
would
silly
never
man.
do that. She's outside playing in the snow. So my brother and I I remember kicking wood to get it packed in there.
Ramming it in.
And we were going to crank it down so that it burned low heat all day long. We had coals and we got home and throw wood on and get things heated up faster. Well, I think
Sounded good as
we
a
probably
7-year-old.
opened it up instead of closing is what I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
And so the heat, and there was no ducting on top of it. It was just pouring heat out the top
yeah.
to fill the basement with heat.
Yeah.
And they assume that it just ignited the whole room, like spontaneous combustion. It got so dry and so hot, it just went poof. And if you were upstairs in our kitchen and you opened the refrigerator, there was no back to the refrigerator. It had melted off, and the hole went right up to the middle of the house, and the back of the fridge was, you open it up and you could look downstairs into the basement.
Nice.
Okay, so if you can imagine, I like my version of your story better.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine a man digging by hand his own foundation and then building his house, and then I really personally, I like the first time it burned down that it was your fault because you packed, I always thought that you packed the thing too full of wood, and then on the way home you saw that it was burning, it burned down. And then you didn't learn your lesson, which is I love telling everyone I know. Everyone I know, I tell this story.
Horrible.
Yeah, everyone I know pretty much thinks you're a retard. And well, as a kid anyway, as a kid. Well, we all make
I've come
mistakes
a long
as
way.
children.
Yeah. Now,
So then I tell it, you didn't learn your lesson the first time, and then you and your brother pack it full the second time, and then a couple years later it burns down. Wouldn't you?
You would be a great coaching candidate at that point, just so you know.
I'm feeling the pull, actually.
I'm thinking of quitting podcasting and life coaching.
Yeah, whatever you got to say, just don't do what I do.
Yeah.
I do actually tell the story that way. I didn't
Oh,
know that
okay.
it happened the other way. I still like my version better.
Gotcha.
But you would let it go out. You would just be like, I hate fire.
Let
That's it.
Dad
I'm done.
start it up again.
Yeah, so then I think that's maybe where my brother got his passion for firefighting. So
So is he always a fire jumper, or does he do firefighting in like
Yeah.
your small town? Or
I'm sorry, he's a fire jumper.
No, he's not a jumper.
Okay.
No,
All
he
right.
did do one summer on a helicopter crew up in Yosemite, though, which was pretty cool. We got to go up there and see him. But
Yosemite is like,
it's amazing. If you haven't been to Yosemite, it's one of those things that, it was in my backyard my entire life. I left North Fork when I was 20 to go into the military, and 21, I don't know how old I was. Either way, I am 22. And I was probably there half a dozen times before I moved out of there. Now I'm like, what was I thinking? All that hiking and all that amazingness. How did I not live there?
well, when Steve was talking about rock climbing Half Dome, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
If you were to see a picture of it, you'd be like,
People do it all the time.
I know, it's
Devil's
crazy.
Tower. I didn't like the pictures of Devil's Tower that he said he climbed.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something about Half Dome. It's like a mountain cut in half. It's the most astounding thing.
You can actually hike up the back of Half Dome
Right.
and just walk up to. We did that one
That's
day
what I would
when
like
I
to
was
do.
in college. Yeah, my boyfriend at the time and I and this brother I was just talking about. We walked it, and it was, I want to say it's like a 17-mile round trip that we did in one day.
bet you
And I was like, I remember getting almost all the way down, and Eric was just like, his poor little legs, he was maybe 11 at the time, maybe a little older, but his little legs were just like rubber, and I don't think I could feel my feet. I was just like, never again am I walking 17 miles in a day. If I
and
can
isn't the
help
top
it.
of it, it's just like a chain, like a rail that you just kind of walk
Yeah.
along, and right off the
Yeah.
other side is...
And I'm scared of heights, and so it was not actually a very pleasant experience for me when we got to the top, and I think I stayed about 2 seconds and turned around and went back down because that just was not fun for me. But there was...
Well, we're thinking about doing some travel podcasting in the summer.
Yeah, I think that would be an amazing...
Yosemite would be awesome.
Yeah, Yosemite would
We
be
need
amazing.
to talk about some of these places. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd be down with that.
We don't have to
You don't
walk
have to
half
do half
dome.
dome.
But
But
the
even going
waterfalls
into the
are
valley,
incredible. It's like
I mean,
those picturesque thing you've ever seen.
I would love to see really. Just this
Yeah.
last year, I'm just like what you said about
Yeah.
Yosemite. I feel that way about Cedar Rapids. I didn't know about the chair building being in
Yeah.
here. Didn't know about any of the businesses in
Yeah.
here until just this last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
In fact, I told Steve Shriver just the other day. I go, "Isn't the best way to get in the cherry building like on the side of the New Bow Market?" He goes, "No, that's not the best way to get into it." It's like, "Oh, I thought that was the best way." Again,
Yeah.
I have no idea about my
Yeah.
surroundings.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get to know Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you want to travel around and take me up some mountain without kids,
Well,
can't take my kids.
I have. Oh, see, I would want my kids to
Well,
hike up.
I just can't hike. I just can't. Like my lady wants. She took my kids to Makokata Caves. Sounds innocent enough, but I've never been there. And the story goes that they didn't take any flashlights, and they were with people who had flashlights, and so they didn't think much of it until the people left.
And
She has a light
And
on
here
her
I'm
phone.
thinking, can I trust you with my children? You took my kids to the center of the earth,
No.
and then you didn't take a flashlight? I don't know how far down you went. And then there's a picture of them like
but they
on a
came
boulder.
back.
And
It all ended
it
well.
all ended well.
You need to increase your risk tolerance.
I have great
Good job,
risk. You
Jen.
know what? I have great risk tolerance on some things.
Oh,
Like my wife will say,
Can you
know
have
what?
that on some things and not on other things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you have risk tolerance on and things you don't?
Well, like risk tolerance, like I'm not afraid to like jump into a new hobby and just go balls out. And oh, you want to do triathlons? I want to get a bike. I want to get a wetsuit. I want to get all this stuff. And my wife's like, oh god, oh god, he's into something new. Oh, this is gonna hurt.
But
the
your
pocketbook."
children, you're not. It's a.
But with my kids, I'm very 3 feet to the left at the caves. It's a precipice. You're on a precipice, and you're taking pictures of the kids. What's going to stop them from accident? They act the fool in my basement. What makes you think they're not going to just fall off the edge of that rock?
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes me nervous. I'm not going to do anything.
I'm with you. We were at the Grand Canyon 2 years ago. This was my ex-husband and I. And we were there, and I said, Alexander is never coming here. I don't care if he's 40. He is never coming here. There was way too many places that he trips and falls. He's off the edge. He's never coming here.
Well, you know what? I don't have a fear of heights, and I think I have almost too much risk with my kids. I don't mind taking them and doing stuff with them, but I have a friend of mine who saw a guy fall off the edge when she was on a family trip when she was at the Grand Canyon. Saw him fall off the edge.
Yeah.
And I was from that point on, I was like, oh, it's just too. I'd almost have little tethers on them or something, like ropes that are attached to my waist, and they can only get like 15 feet before I yank them back.
Or you go off with them, and then you just don't even know.
Yeah.
That'd be better for me.
Very positive route we've taken.
Yes.
Kill yourself with your
How
kids.
else can we kill ourselves with our children?
So, shifting gears. Earlier today, I was thinking I had to stop by Walmart.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ugh.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Fuck, I hate that place.
So before I went to work, I had to stop at Walmart, and what I gelled together was the podcast that we're doing right now, your job, and how great it would be if somebody was paid to be like a life coach at Walmart. If somebody
Could not pay me enough.
if somebody was at Walmart,
Clarify
somebody-
your thoughts or
Okay,
your comments.
I'm gonna get there. Like if somebody walked in and somebody was being paid like by the city, not even by Walmart, but by the city, because it's like a civil duty to say, "Sir, those hot pants should never be worn again. You cannot go to this area of the store and purchase anything. You just don't have the body type for it." And I was really hoping that
Maybe they like hot pants, no matter how bad they look. Society doesn't have to like them. You don't have to like them. They can like them.
now we might. I dig everything you're saying so far, but we might where we might veer away is if you ever like said, you know what, if that makes you happy, you go and buy those hot pants. I realize that you're a 40-year-old man that looks like crap physically, but you go and buy that Affliction T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm with. I don't even know what her answer's going to be, and I'm like, yeah, go buy it. Who gives a shit? Because Matt doesn't like it, you shouldn't go buy it?
Dude, there's a reason why when I said I went to Walmart, both of you went physically.
So don't go to Walmart.
No, listen, for everybody who's not watching this and they're just listening, this is what happened. It was a physical, like they both looked like they were physically throwing up when I said going to Walmart.
High five that. And
part of that reason is because of what you see at Walmart is people that have no clue. And clothing is just one little
that's absolutely
aspect.
wrong. I hate the corporation of Walmart.
You're wrong.
I was just
people.
gonna say.
I don't. If I were to see people, I see the Walmart things on internet all the
There's
time.
so much more there's so much more about the energy of Walmart that drains me, and it's the people.
I feel like a minority right now.
You are a minority.
It's the people. It's the product. It's the setup. It's the layout. It's everything about Walmart. And I mean, I go in there. I actually was able to successfully not go into Walmart for almost 2 years. Did not step into the store. It can absolutely
Walmart
be
now?
done. I go in there because that's where my partner likes to get his toilet paper. I don't know why. I've tried to convince him not to, but this is where we buy household products. So
okay.
I don't, but he does.
I went in for the first time in 3 years last
because
week.
of me?
Nope. Junior, he's in Biloxi, stationed him. He's in the Air Force. He's stationed in Biloxi.
Yeah.
And so we had a Tassimo coffee machine that we stopped using.
Yeah.
Nobody carries Tassimo coffee
Except
things
Walmart.
anymore. So I Google it, and the only thing that came up was Walmart. And so I almost was like, he's just shit out of luck. He can find it on his own. And then I was like, no, he's turning 20, doing a care package. Sure. I'll go. And so I walked in. I'm with you. The vibe is bad.
Yeah. But kind of to what your real question is, though, is advising people on personal choices is essentially what it is, right?
Part of what I asked
Well,
earlier
it's all about,
is there a need for it? And then you look at the people of Walmart, those YouTube videos, and you're like, there's a real significant need to help some people. I mean, there's a difference between looking classy and cool and you have your own style and you're 65 and you're wearing hot shorts.
Yeah, I mean, there's personal style, and then there's, oh God, please don't ever do that. Yeah. I mean, there's a difference.
Sure.
And so it's kind of setting the style question aside a little bit. It's more about, are you even aware of what you are and what you're representing to people right now? And to me, it's the awareness. And if it boils down to, I'm very aware of what I'm putting out there, and this is exactly what I want to put out there, then I'm with you. Go for it.
The rest is judgment.
But if it's, I didn't even realize I looked like this. I didn't realize how bad I looked. Thank you for telling me.
Well, you know what I was thinking was
different.
You ever seen comedians with cars with coffee with Jerry Seinfeld? It's an internet kind of thing. He just takes his favorite comedians, people he likes, and he takes them in a fancy car, and they get coffee and they chat.
Okay.
He had Sarah Silverman on there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And she said that she was with a niece or a nephew who she was talking to her, and the kid was like, looking at her like with this really dumb, horrible look on her face. And Sarah goes, so what I said to her was like, I'm going to change your life. The look on your face right now is so horrible. People must look at you and think you're just dumb as a box of rocks. Put your lips together. Don't let your jaw hang open like that. Don't look like that. Smile when you interact with people, and you're going to get it'll help you out a lot.
Yeah.
So that could kind of be what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not even aware that you're looking like that.
Yeah, you don't know what you're presenting to people.
Yeah,
and
I actually brought it up
that.
a little bit because of myself. Because I was going through my closet, and I'm like, affliction. I don't need to be wearing that. I'm almost.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear an affliction.
I'm almost 40. I don't need to be dressing like I'm 21.
You need the pants with all the bedazzle on the pockets that guys wear.
I need to bedazzle my butt.
I didn't know that guys wore those bedazzled jeans.
Oh, yeah.
Is that just
the Kiss Me jeans women have been wearing for a while, for a couple of years, but I've seen guys now wearing those jeans.
For a couple of years now, yeah.
Guys
I've
have?
been seeing it. Yeah.
Because my heart was just like, even if you had a great butt or a great body, why would you wear those pants?
You don't need to bedazzle your ass if you have a nice one.
There you go.
So, I'm sorry.
Put a shine on the diamond.
The other bad part was that there was an older lady at my work that was wearing jeggings.
Oh, dear Lord.
Somebody commented about Howie Mandel wearing jeggings on some TV show.
Well,
what are jeggings?
They're jeans that are leggings, essentially. It's just super tight
tights
spandex
that look like jeans.
They just look like jeans, but they don't really look like jeans because they're sucked into your body so tight, and the material is thinner than your standard jeans.
You don't like them? I like them on women.
Well, skinny jeans.
Again,
you might be
like,
thinking of skinny jeans versus jeggings. There's a difference in the way that they look.
I think I've
no, I
seen
think they
jeggings.
look. Some people can wear some things.
Oh, gotcha.
Other people,
Okay.
It's like yoga pants, okay? We all know yoga pants can look fucking great on the
some
right
people.
person.
I think it's the greatest thing
some
ever invented, to be quite honest.
I
But
can't wear 'em.
when you are
Not for me.
350 pounds or completely out of shape or...
And you're not necessarily.
But
And
they're
I'm
so
not
comfy.
trying to come across as a complete.
Always the defense.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not trying to come across as a complete asshole. I'm just and judgmental. But I think part of what a life coach might do is what you're saying is are you aware of how you're coming across? Because I was not aware that half the shirts I got rid of yesterday pretty.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never seen you wear an affliction shirt. I can't believe you have that many affliction
This
shirts.
is a
I've known you for
problem, Brad.
23 years. I've never seen you in an affliction shirt.
Maybe I was embarrassed to wear them around you.
Well, you should be, because that's a horrible T-shirt.
See? Right there.
See, so he was afraid to be his authentic self with you.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess so.
You want to know why I had to get rid of them? Because I had to make room for my Chuck Kavanaugh watch and stuff like that. I had to get rid of stuff in my closet to start putting some custom leather work in there.
Chokers.
Chokers. We had talked about earlier, and I'm saying it loud enough so that Chuck in the background can hear this. But we had talked about a little bit, maybe doing like a custom black leather choker with some crosses.
It's not even funny, actually.
It's not funny.
No, it's just the picture. I get the pictures in my head. I'm just like,
Is it almost like?
vomitous. Yeah. I get
Really?
I'm just kidding. I'm
He
just
just
joking.
Wow, you really made
That's
me.
right. It's
You really made me feel terrible right then. I need
I'm
to talk to
sorry.
a life coach.
I think maybe you got the headband instead.
Oh.
With your nice bald head, it would...
oh, that's a good idea.
Or I might look like a
Like a
biker without a
halo.
bike.
Or a
Like half
hippie
the
without
people
the
in Cedar
hair.
Rapids.
Nice. Well played.
You know what? She came on strong at the beginning of the podcast, and now she's kind of.
She's not.
Oh, I
let's
had
go
to
back
bring that up because you
to-
brought it to me earlier.
Let's go back to your question though for just a second,
Okay.
because this is right in keeping with that. Because people, a lot of times when they come to coach, and you would ask why the uptick of coaches, and why, like this is exactly in line with that, because there's so many people that are what I like to call is waking up, and they're starting to. It's almost like they're waking up and going, where did this life come from? Why am I in Walmart in hot pants? I look terrible. They're having these kinds of realizations. Why am I in this job that, it's by all accounts pretty cool. It's not all that bad, but I am like exhausted every day, and all I do is sit at a desk behind a computer. Why am I so freaking tired? Or why am I waking up next to this person every day? I can't fucking stand him or her, or any myriad of other things. And people are starting to wake up to that. And I think it's because we got so, I don't know, I'm probably not explaining this very well, but we just got so kind of just overloaded with this influx of information. And I'm not blaming the internet. I think the internet's a great thing, but we just got like overexposed, I think, in a way to, here's everything you're supposed to be doing. And look what your neighbors are doing. They're going on these great vacations. You better run up your credit cards and go on these great vacations too. And if you don't have the SUV that costs more than your house, by God, you're going to hell. And you get all these ideas thrown at you, and pretty soon you're just adopting. And then you wake up and you're like, I've got this big house with this white picket fence with this great dog and this guy and these kids and this stuff and this debt and what
And
the
I just want to
fuck
stay in
just
bed.
happened, And I would literally describe my life. Like I would go into work and I had 5 steps that would go up the steps into my building before I would badge in. And every day it was like these cement weights on my feet walking in. And I'd be like, why do I feel this way? Because like I work with really cool people. I do a pretty cool, challenging job. I get to travel all over the world. It's not God. People would die to be me. I would literally I know people that would love to be me right now.
Sure.
Why do I hate being me? And I every single one of my clients without fail has said some version of that. Every single one of them.
Because you just weren't doing what you felt like you needed to be doing.
I kind of call it like my soul's craving. Like there was just this whisper within me that was just like, you're not there. You're not doing what you want to do. You're just not there. Like, how could I not be? I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything my parents didn't do. You know, neither one of my parents went to college, let alone a graduate degree, you know?
Right.
My parents, I mean, God bless them. My parents are great. They're ex-hippies. I mean, I voted Republican for ages just because my parents voted Democrat. No other reason. I'll be honest. Like, I just rebelled to rebel. To be very honest with you, I could give two shits about politics, but it's not something I choose to give brain matter to. But it just was this crazy like rebellion thing. And so I woke up in this life and I'm like, all right, I'm 180 degrees away from my parents. Yeah, you know, great.
So for your parents being where they were and you're 180 degrees away from them, for you to stop and go cold turkey and kind of go back towards where they are at.
Oh, they couldn't be prouder. I mean, they've been proud of me the whole time, mostly because my mom's like, whether you realized it or not, you were living the values we taught you, which is to do what you want to do, you know?
Right.
And she said with both of my marriages, actually, she was kind of like, I kind of went, well, okay. You know, when I said I was getting married, when I went into the military, she was like, oh well, okay. You know,
What branch of the military?
I was in the Army.
And what'd you do?
I was a maintenance officer. So I commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1997 from Fresno State. And then I went off to Aberdeen Proving Grounds and did my schooling there, which I don't remember much of because I was still drinking at that time. And we drank a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure we didn't learn anything and we just partied. Maybe not. I don't know. But and then I went to Fort Hood, and I spent 3 years at Fort Hood, almost, a little bit less. Married my first husband there, who was a Special Forces guy who he'd kind of taken a break and went and became an officer and then was an ordnance officer like I was. That's how we met. And then he went back into Special Forces as an officer. So we went to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And I spent
That's where he was stationed?
Yeah, I spent the next 3 years there. So I was there from 2000 to 2003. And I spent, so of course 2000 I got there. And then of course 2001 happened and I immediately left and went off to Afghanistan and then came back from that and deployed a few months later over into the Middle East. So, yeah.
Do you feel like any of your time overseas woke you up to?
Absolutely. I got sober in the Middle East. That was one of the major transformations that happened for me over there. My buddies are getting like shot at and blown up in Iraq, and I'm in Doha, Qatar. I don't know if you're familiar with that part of the world at all.
Sure.
Working at a U.S. embassy as I was working with the host nation military, and so I did all of the customs and immigration protocol work for dignitaries coming in and out. When the president came over for his first visit after we started the war in Iraq, I hosted his visit, and I was like the key person between the base and the embassy, and had a really crazy experience there. But either way, while I was there, I ended up getting introduced to the fact that I was an alcoholic. And somebody actually grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, not literally, but, you know, emotionally, and was like, you are a drunk. Do you realize that? Do you realize you have a problem? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. And it was one of those things. That was kind of my first, like, foray into realizing that my life wasn't exactly what I wanted. You know, that I was doing a lot of things that I was, like, in the name of getting to where I wanted to be. It still took me another 11 years, really, to get to today. You know,
Sure.
So it's been a long journey. But, so that was where kind of that first awakening happened for me, I think. Because prior to that, I mean, I went into the military because they happened to call me on a good day and say, we'll pay for the rest of your college if you join. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. You know, they sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky in July, which is hell. I don't know if you've been there, but July into Fort Knox, Kentucky is living hell on earth. And so I did that and came back. They paid for my last 2 years of school, and I went off to play Army I did it for 7 years on active duty, and I did 3 years with the Guard in Davenport.
Do you think you would have kind of, like, really, I mean, it's almost like you were, like you said, awakened by where you were at. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you would have gotten to that spot if you wouldn't have seen how so many people have, you know, not left their hometowns? So many people have not left their state, let alone the country.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the United States is such a completely different place on how we all live and what we all take for granted than it is in the Middle East. I was in the Sinai Desert, which is a cakewalk, and it was not a combat zone. It was a multinational force and observer type thing. And I was in Haiti for a little bit. So that wasn't that great, but nothing like the United States. Seeing that stuff is like Whoa.
Yeah, my first exposure to that was actually Korea. I did 6 weeks in Korea as a cadet, my senior year of college, and that was complete and utter culture shock for me. Coming from Central California, I had never left the state of California at that time in my life, and I flew. Oh no, I'd been to Fort Knox, I guess, which I don't know. That is like another world to me, but. I had gone there. I was in Fort Lewis, Washington for my advanced training, and then they flew me to Korea. And so my first trip out of the States sends me to South Korea, and then I wasn't even like in the main base in Korea. I was down in this tiny little base called Suwon, where it was a Patriot base when Patriots were the thing still. And I just was like, this is how do people live like this? I mean, everything from, the toilet systems being different to the kids on the street. And I was just, when I got back, I was like, I have a whole new appreciation for the world I live in. Whole new appreciation. Same thing when I went over to Southwest Asia, is just seeing, we were occupying an old Russian base in Karshi-Khanabad when we first got over there. And it was just insane. And a lot of the work I did took me out into the community. And just insane seeing the ravages of previous wars there and the conditions that people had to rebuild from. We took a trip one time, shortly before we left, into Samarkand, and they had all of these mosques and temples that had been completely defiled by previous occupations, and they were painstakingly replacing these little tiles, half an inch by half an inch, on these huge buildings, 3-4 times the size of the Cherry Building.
Like mosaic kind of stuff?
Yeah, and they're replacing the entire inside of the building with these little tiles. I mean, it was insane. We got to see the Tomb of David while we were there. We got to see, just really crazy stuff. And then, in the Middle East, I lived actually on the economy when I lived in Qatar, and so I had kind of free reign on my own car, and I could go and do things and go and go shopping in the souks whenever I wanted, and kind of just live on my own. And it was a little bit of a mixed thing because I lived in this crazy ass four-star hotel. This Intercontinental Hotel is what I lived in. And then I would go to work and I would drive past people living in like tents, on the side of the road,
right,
on my way to the embassy. And it was just one time I actually got in a car accident at a roundabout, and the guy was just like begging me. I had to call, as soon as we got in an accident, we had to call the embassy and like keep him on the phone when this happened. So I called my security officer, and I'm like, I just got in an accident. He's like, stay in the car, and he's like talking me through what to do. And the guy comes up and he's just begging me. He's just like, please don't call anybody. Please don't call anybody, And he's just, he didn't have whatever papers he needed to be in the country. just all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, you couldn't have hit a worse person, buddy.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I have all these requirements, So I actually ended up giving my phone to him, and my security officer talked to him and ended up just letting him go. But it was crazy things. So yeah.
I'm a big history fan. The Tomb of King David, is that the one that's cut into the side of that mountain?
No, it's the one that he maybe it's not David, maybe I'm messing up. Daniel, it's where his bones keep growing like after death. So it's like this huge, like the coffin is probably as long as this space, which is about 40 feet, and the whole theory is that after they put him in the tomb, his bones continue to grow. And so it's just this huge, big, long tomb.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't remember. I'm sure I was given more information about it at the time. It's just not. I've got it written down somewhere probably. But,
so the whole skeleton looks like a giant.
Basically. And it's not even that like it keeps growing out. It's just like it keeps lengthening. So I'm not somebody who's smarter with the Bible.
It's a miracle.
Tell you that.
I like to call that an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure there's something with the chemical makeup of calcium or something in there that caused all this.
Sure,
but
exactly.
Yeah, so it's just so yeah, it really was it. If I had stayed in North Fork, which is a very small town, and I don't have anything bad to say about it, but it's a small town. Now, it was a cool place to grow up because there's an Indian reservation right in my hometown too. So as a kid, the grandmothers would come into the school and teach us things like beading and basket making and all this stuff. Well, as a kid, I have no appreciation for what I'm getting exposed to at all. Mm-hmm. There's a powwow in our town every year. There's, all kinds of really neat stuff. My backyard growing up was, we backed up to the Sierra National Forest, and in the rocks were grinding holes, from when they would just grind into the
That
stones.
is the coolest thing.
We would find arrowheads all the time and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And so...
And your parents still live in the same house that you grew up in?
No, my dad was actually in a terrible car accident when I was 12, turning 13. As a result, we lost the house that we were living in and moved. And then we moved several times then. I counted it up actually one time before I just made this last move. I've moved 27 times in my life, which I was like,
wow.
That's cool.
God, I thought I moved a lot.
I'm a good packer.
Holy cow. Do you ever feel like you have trouble? Did you feel growing up you had trouble with connections because you're moving so much?
No, I just didn't like people.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because I had a really difficult time moving around, so much.
I did. I had trust issues, I'll be honest, with people just because I wasn't. But I stayed in the same school system, so that never changed.
Okay.
But, I had trust issues just for probably a lot of other reasons, other things that had come up in my life. And but yeah, my parents actually live here now. I moved them out here. My ex-husband and I bought some flood houses after 2008, and we bought a house for them, and they moved out here. My dad was a builder, and in California around that time, the economy was just taking a complete and utter dump. And he's a custom home builder, building multi-million-dollar homes in Yosemite. You can actually build private homes in Yosemite in some places, and he was kind of watching it, and we were watching it. I'm like, why don't you guys just move out here? Just move out here. John and I'll buy you a house. You can buy it from us in a year or so, to get back on your feet.
He can fix it up.
Yeah, so we
Right.
did. It took everything down to the rafters, moved walls, did everything. It's just a little single-story, 2-bedroom house down on the
Awesome.
northwest side. Ironically now, my ex-husband lives on one house. There is a house that we don't own. Then my parents live in the next house, and my mother-in-law lives across the street from them. So I've got them all contained.
Nice.
So the
Wow.
little one-bedroom apartment across the street from my parents next to my mother-in-law actually opened up. My mom's like, you should move down here. I'm like, yeah, snowball's chance in hell of that. So,
you could basically just drop your kid off
and just
in that
pick
block.
a house.
Yeah,
babe,
decide
where you wanna
go, bud.
So I moved them out here just because of the economy. And now my mom, you can go say hi to her anytime. She's in the Northeast Side Deli at Target. She works there and loves it. She loves people. She's a total people person. And my dad, we actually, he started working at Lowe's when he first got here just to have a job coming in. And then he and I went into business together and had our own construction company for a while and did that for a bit. And then he just didn't really like the pressure of having to do it all on his own. Mm-hmm. And so he works for somebody, Sattler Homes here in town now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, so it's, I don't remember how we got onto all this. But,
I don't know.
I don't know, start with the fires and stuff like that. But I think it must feel good though to look back on that journey. It sounds pretty extensive and unique, and to be where you're at now and feel happy and centered and in a good spot. To me, it's like finding the center of the storm kind of thing. It's just so much you go through, and all of a sudden, oh hey, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, and it has been a crazy journey because I just was. when I got this job here in Cedar Rapids, actually, I got brought in here by the local power company. It was when I was getting out of the military, I went to a recruiting thing, and I interviewed with a lot of different people, and actually, they were the ones that I liked the best, but they had you put your likes and dislikes down, and so I wrote everything I liked about him, and I wrote my dislike. I'm like, it's in Iowa with 50 exclamation points behind it. So I'm like, I don't know a single freaking soul in Iowa. I don't have any desire to live in the Midwest, for Pete's sake. I'm from California, and I love the East Coast. Why would I go to Iowa? I was just like, what the hell, universe? What are you doing to me? And but I had already agreed that I'm like, wherever, really does kind of float to the top, that's where I'm going. And I came out here, and I interviewed, and they put me up at what used to be the Crown Plaza, and I had 4 more stops on my trip to interview with different companies after that, and I ended up coming down with a horrendous case of bronchitis while I was here and was very, very sick. Probably should have been in the hospital. Very, very, very sick. and had to cancel the rest of my interviews. And the company called me while I was still here and offered me a job. And I always just kind of half jokingly say I accepted it in a fever-induced haze because I just could not go anymore. And so that's how I ended up here. I mean, it like literally trapped me here. And so I was like, I guess I'm supposed to be in Iowa.
And so, I mean, you're okay with the winters? You're okay with the, I mean, is
no.
it? No?
No. I mean, honestly, I don't see myself in Cedar Rapids forever. I just don't, because there's so many other places in the world that I want to go and be and do. And it's not that I don't like Cedar Rapids.
Sure.
I just know that it's not permanent for me. My son is a lot like me in that he's kind of up for adventure. His dad has talked about the desire to maybe live somewhere else too. We'll see if that, if all this really happens or not. But I want to go and see more of the world, and I want to do more. I love to travel. I love to be in different places. I could see myself living several different other places before I'm done.
And that's awesome, because I mean, I see myself dying here.
Yeah.
I love Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
But I mean, would love to travel.
And I mean, I think I'd always come back here.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it here. There's nothing, this would, wouldn't be a bad home base for me other than it's not by the beach. I mean, honestly, that's what I want. I want to be near, not the Cedar River. I want to be near water.
Right.
So
less
the Cedar,
murky.
Though, bless that river. I don't want it to come back and get me.
Well, but I mean, we joke around all the time.
sharks.
I go to California to visit my family, and my wife and I have to prep.
Yeah.
Because my family is so nutty. And so we love going there, and we always go to Half Moon Bay. We always hit certain places. But we have to prep to get it out there.
It's a different energy, that's for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the physical, the amount of people.
Yeah.
I'm always caught off guard, even though I lived there, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., so there's even more people there.
Oh, yeah.
There's still, you get there, and it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of people around here.
There really is.
It just kind of catches you off guard.
Yeah.
Hey, back to what you do. Back to what you're doing here. I wanted you to talk to me about the gems and all that stuff. But is there one thing in particular that you like doing the most in what you're doing? Because you have you said Reiki.
Yeah. So
Reiki?
what I do as an integrative coach is I bring people in and I work through positive psychology techniques with kind of the talking side of it. With just looking at what's your optimal life. We'll assess all the different categories of your life, what's going on with those, where do you want them to be, that kind of thing. So there's a whole talking aspect of it. And then there's a healing aspect of it, which combines a lot of different things I've learned over the years. Numerology, which is the study of numbers and your birth date and your name. And then there's the shamanic healings that I'll do, which will be things like soul contracts, core wounds, past life journeys, destiny, purpose, all that kind of stuff. So kind of looking at a soul level, what are you made up of, and what do we maybe need to go in and do some healing on. And then I'll do just straight energy healing, which is just looking at your chakras. Are they balanced? Are they aligned? What's your aura like? How are you feeling energetically? Physical pain can be, I happen to think, every time a manifestation of spiritual pain or emotional pain. So if you have, aches in your neck, it's maybe not being able to see things from multiple perspectives, really taking a hard line on something, for example. So that kind of thing. So I use all of those different things. And then the tools then that kind of come into that are things like the stones, essential oils, different herbs like sage, cedar, palo santo, frankincense, that kind of thing, and drumming, rattling, all of those different techniques come in. So I know you guys have done a sweat lodge before, and those are kind of
in fact,
technique along those lines.
I was going to say, if you wanted, you were talking about was it the reservation where you used to live? I was going to say, if we're Kina is going to come back. She does Ojibwe sweat lodge in the fall, right?
October.
This October.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do a sweat lodge, we'd let you know when that's happening.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Because there's so many. It seems like when you talk spirituality, when you talk, when you break the norm of what we're all used to, and people start going, "Oh, that's hooey."
Yeah.
Then it all kind of blends together. You like that? It's
Hooey. Great word. Okay,
it doesn't get used. It doesn't get used enough.
Okay,
is a
but
great
I
word.
chuckled. But I chuckled.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thanks,
Sorry.
buddy. But there's a lot of things that are very similar, and they bleed over into a lot of other belief systems.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about sage and essential oils and the drumming, and it just seems like, is there like one universal kind of code or base, like elements that we all should be aware of, and we're just not aware of it because it's being used in all these different religious belief systems, but normally not a lot of people are into it or are aware of it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a specific technique so much as it's, I mean, really, the common thread you'll find between everything is just love.
Oh,
I like that.
she went with that. Okay.
It is. That's
All
the
right.
common thread.
Okay.
I don't like it really any much more than you do because I hate sappy bullshit. I do. I mean, there are phrases I will purposely stay away from because they just make my skin crawl. And I don't even really like to say, oh, just practice love. Because it does. It comes across as, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, genuinely. And I don't, if you're a skeptic, you know,
Right.
if you're kind of on the other side of the fence, you're like, yes, love, thank you, you're amazing. Oh, my God.
How could I have forgotten about love?
How could I have forgotten love? But if you're not, if you're more of the skeptical kind like I was, you know, coming back into this, I'm like, I don't, you know what, take your love bullshit and shove it. You know, let's talk about what I really need because I don't want to hear you tell me I need a love. You know, this asshole's doing this and that bitch is doing that. And, you know, and that's where people come at it from. And the last thing they want to hear is you just need to open yourself up to love. That doesn't help me when I'm in that frame of mind.
Right.
So, I mean, but it does kind of boil back to that is what it really does.
But
I
no
mean,
matter
it
how much you
actually
don't like
does.
it does boil down
Yeah,
to that.
because it's, you know, and what I'll work with people on is, you know, okay, so, you know, you don't like that person and that's great, but what you don't like about them is something that's within you. So you have to learn how to accept that quality in yourself and kind of love that in yourself. And then that person's just, they're not even going to have an effect on you. You just become completely ambivalent to them. They don't, who cares? You know, so it really does boil back to that. But I think from a technique standpoint, I think there is a lot of different commonality. It's just manifests differently. I mean, in every single philosophy I've ever dealt with, there is a connection with spirit. You know, connection with an energy that's bigger than us.
Right.
You know, I don't care what you call it.
Right.
There's a need to be enlightened and awake to the interconnectedness with you and other people and with you and the world around you. And then there's a need to just, you know, to promote healing, to promote that energy exchange, which is a phrase I don't like, but to promote that energy exchange with your surroundings, with people around you, and, you know, truly with that source energy. And we forget that, I think, a lot of times, and we start to rely back on, nope, it's me. I'm going to do this in a vacuum. It's my personal power. It's my personal, and it gets a little bit reinforced by the way that we get raised, especially in our culture with, you know, be a man, grow up, do this, do that, you know, be strong and take it kind of stuff that we allow ourselves to fall victim to. So, but I think those are the things that become really common. And that's where I don't affiliate to any religion or any specific belief system. I affiliate to what makes sense to me. So, I mean, I've got a, you know, Hindu god tattooed on my arm and a quote from Joan of Arc. I've got a, you know, Chinese symbol on my back. I've got, you know, I read Buddhism. I, you know, subscribe to, you know, all different kinds of faiths and belief systems for newsletters and books. And I just, you know, if it fits for me, then I keep it. And if it doesn't fit for me, then I don't keep it. You know, like I said, I'm baptized Catholic. I don't go to Mass anymore, but there's a lot of things about that religion I like. So
my wife makes fun of me because she was raised Catholic, and I used to take her mom to service, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I love the ritualistic aspect of it.
beautiful.
I always really
Yeah.
enjoyed that part.
Yeah.
You know, even it was very traditional kind of stuff. My grandfather was a Methodist minister, which is a pretty laid back religion. But and we had done some fundamental kind of Christian stuff for a while, which we enjoyed because there was a lot of singing and stuff like that. But I like some of the just old way things happen. I mean, I don't know if it's whether it's like observing something that has been going on for just eons, you know, kind of thing. But I think it's a good idea to be open to some of that stuff because then you have the chance to. I mean, you don't miss all the boats. You know what I mean? And some people, I had a therapist one time tell me, "Well, that's convenient. That way you don't have to commit to anything." And I was like, there's some truth to that,
Yeah.
but I also don't think that any certain thing is it. And so I don't want to commit to it because I'm just not convinced that that's the one solid thing. Even if it's perfect for me, I'm just not convinced it's for everybody.
Yeah. I know when I was growing up, my parents didn't, I won't say they didn't believe in organized religion. They just didn't subscribe to it. And so as a result, I was curious. I've always been a curious person. And so I was really curious. So every time my friends would invite me to go to church with them, I would go. And I think I went to about every variety that was offered in my, immediate vicinity as often as I could because it was so curious to me. My parents were very into the metaphysical community. So, I did things like my first past life regression when I was like 4. I learned about guides and spirit guides when I was introduced to those very young. I remember group meditations and group healings, and I had a kidney infection when I was like 8, and they never took me to the doctor. They just did healing work on it, and it worked. I'm alive, so it worked, and I was exposed to just about, I think, everything a kid could be exposed to. And I'll be honest, some of that was really super positive experience, and some of it was just completely fucked up. Just completely. And my parents would agree with you 100%,
Right.
It's just, there were some people that I'm just, that I just never want to encounter again in my life.
Just sketchy.
They're really super sketchy. And those people still, I will encounter that variety of people today. And I'm just like, I don't need anything to do with you. Thank you very much.
Isn't that amazing? You bump into enough sketchy people, and man, right away, the vibe.
Yeah, you know them.
I've talked about people in my life that I grew up with that are just really sketchy, even to this day are sketchy. And then you bump into somebody who has a similar personality trait, and right away you're like, "Ooh, snap! I know what you're like."
Yep.
I hate to put you underneath that label right away, but I don't need to deal with you because it's just not going to work out okay.
And if it's someone I have to deal with, I fall back on I will give you a chance to prove me wrong. I will let you try. I will let you try to not be what I think you are.
Right.
But I am not going to trust you yet.
Yeah.
So, can you talk more about the numerology? You said that it's numbers and your birthday and your name.
Yeah. So it's like the easiest number, the quickest number to do is your life path number. And so your life path number is based on your date of birth, your full date of birth, month, day, and year. And you'll boil that down to a single digit. So I was born on November 18th, 1974, and so mine adds up to a 5. So I'm a life path 5. And each life path, it's numbers 1 through 9. Each life path has a different energetic vibration, and those energetic vibrations produce different, I'll call them personality traits, but just different characteristics in a person. And you will find, so I'm a 5, and every 5 I've encountered without fail are people who like adventure. They tend to be very independent. The worst thing you can do to a 5 is try to control them and tell them, that they have to do something or want,
Right.
Constriction is a killer. Love to travel, love to escape through reading. 5s can be very prone to addictions because 5s love excitement so much that they're always looking for the next high. 5s are those people doing the X Games, they're adventure seekers kind of people. I'm trying to think of some other characteristics.
Is it hard to do a numerology for somebody? Can you do one of us?
Yeah.
Can I go?
I'm almost the exact same birth date as you, year and everything.
Yeah.
I'm only like maybe a week or 2 off.
Okay.
So maybe
You're a 5, then you think you're
Well,
a
no, not necessarily.
No, I'm not
What's
saying
your-
I'm a 5. I just thought maybe yours is so polar opposite.
Oh.
So far
He'll probably
different.
boil down to a 5, though, just because you just did that.
I think so. That's awesome.
I did. We had Channel 2 in Illuminations, and I did the guy. I can't think of his name right now. Either way, the anchor came in, and we were doing it, and I did him on the air, and it was he boiled down to the exact same number as mine. And
Really?
he was born in 82 or something. A little puppy, but so.
Yeah.
But
That's
he
for
was,
sure.
the exact same as mine. So yeah. So
So I can just give you my
either one.
numbers?
Yeah. So what is that? You're gonna make me do public math now. All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm bad at
Do
that,
you
too, so
need-
no pressure.
Do you need paper?
Yeah, the tissues won't come. Let's see. Do either one of you have a pen on you?
I don't.
don't.
Check the pen.
I'm very excited.
Look at him. Look at that guy.
Oh,
We have
Kevin,
flying
you
pens in
rock.
Studio 123.
Studio 123.
All
Love
right.
it.
Okay. So
You
what
should
is
have
it?
shirts made.
April 4th, 1971. Oh,
She
is that a
snickered.
happy
You wanna know
chuckle?
why?
No,
That was
I'm-
a fun chuckle, I think.
I'm going to guess.
Okay, you're an 8. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I got
What
excited.
were you going to say?
I was going to say an 11 because
It's 1 through 9.
Oh, it's because all
You weren't
11
paying attention.
Because all
You should-
11s have this.
All 11. Oh,
little
11s have.
flavor savers.
Thanks.
So
Whatever that's called.
Soul
you're
patch.
A life
Soul
path
patch, whatever.
8. What's yours, just out of curiosity?
All right, December 2nd, 1974. Carry the 1.
You just messed her up. What year were you born?
Oh, my Lord.
What year were you born?
You guys are the exact same number.
No,
Oh,
we're
that's
not.
so
we
gross.
Can't be. We
You
can't be
are.
because we're
Yes.
completely different.
You're just channeling different. I'll double check.
You know
my
what's
math,
funny?
'cause we all
She's
just said
double
I'm not
checking
A
her
lot of
different.
times, and I hate to I hate to put us into this category, but this will either be said. One of two things will either be said when people see us for the first time together. They'll either say, "Are you guys brothers?"
Mm-hmm.
Or our favorite.
Yeah, it's my absolute favorite. Oh, you guys are polar bears. Is it polar bears?
Just bears.
You're a gay couple. Oh, you guys are so
And that's
cute
happened on
together.
so many
That's
occasions.
what I thought when I first met you guys. I'm just teasing.
Oh, we're not
You know
surprised.
what?
If it's true,
Yeah,
it's
I wouldn't be surprised if you said that.
Well, Keena, the lady who did the sweat lodge, her granddaughter was there, and she's a sweet kid, and she thought for a long time,
Yeah.
you guys are adorable together.
yeah, because we were there.
Well, you are adorable together.
We were there for 2 days, and I wasn't trying. I after she said it, I'm like, either one of us has got to butch it up a little bit. This is bullshit.
We are both.
We cannot come across.
You
as a
can't
gay couple
pigeonhole
anymore.
gay people like gay men or butch. That's
I
the whole
know.
point.
I know. Well, yeah.
So we
You're
couldn't
right.
butch it up anymore. We make it look even worse.
All right, listen. I might have just said it for comedic sake.
Okay. Let's let Jennifer finish her.
You are
her-
both. You're identical. You're
Eights?
both. Yeah, you're both 26 eights. So both of your birthdays add up to 26, and then that reduces to 8. And so you are absolutely identical in your life path. So, life path, what it means is that this is the energy that
So
you are
freaked
here
out.
to fulfill in this lifetime. So you're going to feel most fulfilled when you're working in alignment with these energies. Is all that really means. And so. So as eights, just kind of in a vacuum, I guess. That's not the right phrase, but straight eights are just no pun intended. Straight eights are just,
We appreciate it. You know we would.
they're known as the executives, and so
Okay.
tend to be leaders, formally or informally. Tend to be leaders, kind of in charge of their own little.
Sphere of
empires.
influence?
Yeah, sphere of influence. So,
Okay.
whatever arena you're in, people will tend to look to you for, leadership or guidance. Not maybe even overtly, but they're watching you. Eights tend to fall into, I don't know what either one of you do for full-time jobs when you're not podcasting, but tend to do really well in jobs that require them to deal with finances or logic similar to finances. So things that make sense, sequencing information type of things.
Okay.
Maybe that's why I'm so unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that's what you have to do, but they just tend to
Yeah.
excel with that energy. Eights tend to be very good with money just in general. When they're working it in the positive. And so eights are people of extremes. You either do really well with money or you're horrible with money and it goes through your hands like a sieve.
There you go.
so
That's me.
you can work either.
I'm bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
you get $5, you spend 10. It's that kind of behavior. So
Okay.
yeah.
Hey,
What?
be nice.
I had 3 fingers pointing at me, bud.
Yeah. You're so full of shit.
Yeah. Eights are, but the cool thing about eights, and this is like my favorite trait about eights, is once you make a decision, you're in. So it's like you could be headed down like a really tragic, terrible, horrible path, and you just wake up one day and go, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And you can then make a series of decisions that will completely take you out of that and go the other way.
Huh.
So, I mean, it really, like, that energy is so profound with eights. And I have seen it happen in client after client of mine that are 8 life paths. It's just, they don't struggle nearly as much as other life paths do.
But what she's saying is a lot of her clients are 8s. Which means that you have issues.
Yeah.
You have, not him,
Yeah.
you.
God, you're
Well,
so bad.
there's a mirror here. Whatever I say to you, I mean to me.
Exactly.
It just sounds better if I blame it on you.
Exactly.
You
That's
guys
okay.
Are quick learners. See? Yeah. So the other thing about 8s is tend to have very, very, very little tolerance for people who cast themselves into victim roles. So if you have, people that walk up and they're like, "Oh, poor me, this happened," and you're just like, "Well, you know what? I don't have time for you. It just annoys me to no end." So that's something that you'll have, but the other thing is you can quickly cast yourself into a victim role when you feel like you are being, and you will be like the world's worst victim ever. And so that can be where the victim can then kind of support things like money trickling through your hands, or other kind of wasted resources. I don't always think of it as money either.
That fits really well.
It's wasted resources, because money is just energy, and so there could be other manifestations of that. The numbers that contribute to your 8, so you kind of boil down to a 26, so the 2 and the 6, and you can think of it sequentially. Through your lifetime, you might work through 2 energies, you might work through 6 energies, and then work through 8 energies. You might work through them in a different order. But the 2 is about, which is really cool because of what you guys are doing, the 2 is about being like a moderator, so being someone who likes to bring people together, to create atmospheres where people are having a good time and communicating and getting along well, and don't like to see people, I don't want to say don't like to see people uncomfortable, but don't like to see people truly in pain, like to help people. Okay. And so that actually fits really well with what you're doing by, bringing information to people, because then the 6 energy is around nurturing. Families tend to be, 6 is almost without fail have families, and if they don't have the formal family network, they have an informal family network, and a lot of 6s have both. So you guys strike me as people that have both. And so when you combine those things, you come up with this, people person, basically, that doesn't tolerate a lot of bullshit. So that's actually a pretty good mix. So
nice.
That is pretty good.
Yeah. So
it is pretty good because, I right away identify with the victim role within myself. It was easy for me to point out right away people that piss me off that are victims, but I could see it right away, like high school, and taking the opportunity to say, oh, I had a shitty life, my parents got divorced, so I can steal whenever I want. Just things like that. It becomes very apparent when you put it in those
The other
terms.
thing about 8s, too, which is really funny, is 8s will always get caught. Maybe not right away, but there will be 50 cars speeding down the highway. You're the one that gets pulled over. It's that that energy. It attracts. I mean, that might not be an example that's relevant for you guys, but it was probably an 8 that got the first speeding ticket off the cameras on 380. I would bet money that was the Life Path 8, because that's just what happens. That's the rule for 8s.
Okay.
Now here's my not on your track.
Sure.
I have, and I've always had this, and it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I have I get anxiety attacks around people, which it's weird that we have it's I don't know if it's weird that we have a podcast and that's what we do. We go and we meet new people, but if I get even I get really uncomfortable, not because people are making me uncomfortable, but just because there's so many people. Even at a family reunion, I get really weirded out.
With the Life Path, it's energy that you can access. It's energy that you're going to feel better when you're comfortable in that energy, but there's other things contributing to that anxiety, and so that there's a whole host of numbers that go into a numerological reading. So this is just one of 10 different numbers that I'll do when I do a full report. And so they can, those numbers can explain that feeling of anxiety sometimes as well. There could be other things going on that, could also be reinforced with the numerology, that are things like maybe a soul, bless it! What is it called? Basically, when you undergo some sort of experience in your life, whether it's this lifetime or the last lifetime, you kind of have this wound in your energy body that then can, when you get into certain scenarios, kind of trigger that, and it's almost like when you've got an old injury that causes arthritis or something, and then when it rains, you're like, oh, my knee is killing me, kind of thing. It's like you get into that same scenario, and you're like, oh, I've been here before and it hasn't gone well, so I'm going to be a little bit anxious. So even if you think back in this life, and if you like if we could track it back to that time where you were in a group of people and maybe got embarrassed or uncomfortable, or somebody said something that you were like, I never want to feel like this again. Well, that was a little wound that got inflicted, and then it gets triggered, you know, over and over again when you put yourself in those situations.
What do you say? How do you feel about people who are complete skeptics? You know, if it's not a provable thing, you know, they're atheists, because if it's not a provable thing, then I don't. If you can't prove it, I'm not.
I think to each their own. I mean, I think you guys asked me earlier, you know, about people that get drug in here, and I mean, the truth is, I don't let people get drug in here. You know, if somebody doesn't want to be coached, I don't want to coach them, because it's not going to work for them, and that's not an integrity with the way that I operate. And so, you know, so someone comes in here and really wants to argue with me about stuff. Well, I mean, that's fine, but I'm not here to debate and argue.
Right.
Like, I have my beliefs and you have your beliefs. If you really want to learn, I'm super happy to teach you. Like, let's talk about that and have a discussion. That's different. But if you're just coming in here to tell me I'm wrong and you're right, like I don't have time.
Well, and I think I've used the analogy in the past in other podcasts of saying, if you're not ready to come in and get help, then there's no point in you coming in at all. It's like an alcoholic; you have to want to not be an alcoholic.
You do, yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing, and that's where, you know, there's been times when I'm with clients and it's the same issue coming up and up and up and up, and I'll say, okay, I'm just flipping back through my notes here, and for the last 6 weeks you've said the same thing and you haven't done anything about it. So what's up? You know, I mean, like, we can't go anywhere until you move past this. What do we need to do? And, you know, we'll talk. And then, you know, that sometimes is tears, sometimes it's laughter, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. It's just, you know, the process kind of starts at that point. So.
I really have to use the restroom, so I'm going to go. But I want to hear about the stones. So
well, I'm going to ask about the stones.
Don't talk about that until I get back. Okay.
Oh gosh. No, it's okay. I'm just kidding. I just want to make you feel bad.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked great.
Good. I'll wait for you to get out of here.
He reminds me of, like, getting out of here, that Catherine Zeta-Jones movie where she's, like, going through all of the lasers. He's like,
and you don't look that good in yoga pants.
Oh, I bet he does.
It's a fact. Well, he does CrossFit. I don't do that. He does CrossFit. Yeah. I was going to ask you about... obviously, it's different strokes for different folks. There's a ton of different therapies out there, and you're very open. It seems like you're very open to a lot of different types of therapies. I was looking at the gems, and I know Todd doesn't want me to get into it while he's gone, so I'll go at a different angle. Is there anything where you've been introduced to a certain type of therapy and you're just like, nope, and once again, that's hooey. I'm not open to that. It doesn't feel right for me. Or what's your bullshit meter for therapy types?
Yeah, so I don't know that there's a bad type out there. I think there are practitioners that when they deliver it, they're not truly connected with what they say they're delivering, and that's where I find a disconnect. I think that there is, I mean, pretty much anything that you can do out there is probably going to work for somebody on some level, even if it's a placebo effect. Right. You know,
and that's a very concrete thing.
Yeah.
And that's a fascination of mine because it's so real, but we all think it's just weird and goofy and not real, but it's so real that scientists include the placebo effect in every scientific trial,
which I think is just an amazing demonstration of what our brain does.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, that's just, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I love the premise of the movie Lucy that just came out.
I saw it,
where she's like using 100% of her brain, and I thought, oh my god, like that, to me, that's fascinating to me. And I don't know if the movie's any good or not, but
well, here I won't spoil it,
okay,
because I know you want to see it. Here's the amazing things about Lucy that I really appreciated. One, the special effects, amazing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right? And it's almost like we take that for granted anymore, that the special effects are going to be...
Yeah, we expect it.
Yeah. The part that I really enjoyed, because I've always been fascinated by the brain, by hypnosis, by out-of-body experiences. I talked about this a few podcasts ago when I was in the Sinai and I was just desperately missing home and my fiance, which was actually my first wife. A buddy of mine, or a guy that I knew, had a book about how to have a out-of-body experience, astral projection.
Yeah.
And so I read it and I never had that experience, but I just thought, what an amazing, amazing thing. What are we capable of? I mean, when I was little, I asked my mom, what's my superpower? Because I loved, Marvel comics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then you watch martial artists, master martial artists, and there's videos on YouTube where a guy is chopping his hand, flesh and bone, through 2 steel leaf springs. Yeah. He doesn't make it through 2. He only gets through 1. Huh. But anyway, still, he got through steel.
Loser.
Fail. But when I see stuff like that, or like the Shaolin monks and different cultures, and I think, look what they're able to do. Yeah. It's amazing what they're able to do. And if they're able to do it, am I able to do it? If that person's able to astral project, am I able to astral project? If that person's able to do a past life regression, am I able to do it? And in a way, that's almost like fulfilling that fantasy that I had as a kid of having, like, what's the superpower? Because there's that placebo effect, what people can make themselves better with only their mind, or thinking, oh, that's the magical medicine. I'm taking that pill. Oh, it was actually sugar. Yeah. But the tumor's gone. Yeah. It's nuts. And it also is a testament to, if you don't want help, if you're that type of person that you're so jaded, you're not open to the experience, you're not open to the possibilities, nothing is going to help you. Yeah,
because and that's why I honestly believe that the techniques work. I mean, I think they do. I think the technique work. I think there are people who they're either not trained appropriately in them, or they don't honestly believe in the technique they're trying to apply, or they want to believe but won't admit that they're not genuinely feeling. I mean, there's all the whole gamut of stuff that can happen. Now, there's things I've experienced that I think, I don't ever want to do that again, personally. And I just, it's just not for me, and that's okay. There's been a lot of different techniques that a lot of my colleagues are into, that, like tapping. There's this technique of tapping, and I'll be honest, I don't know how to explain it, so I'm not going to try. But I hear a lot of people talking about it, and I've had people do it to me, and I'm just like, it just doesn't resonate with me, but I know hundreds of people just, by association, that absolutely swear by it. I'm like, not my thing, that's cool. Good for you. Yeah.
Well, that can help you relate to people who are skeptical and may not be believer. You can say, well, there's plenty of things that I don't.
Yeah, I just don't ascribe to them, and there's, when I was affiliated with my prior center, it was a very, everyone come, everyone's welcome, every belief system, everything. And so there would be different events that would get hosted there, in particular, with the Pagan Pride groups in town. And I have nothing against, paganism and their connection to the earth.
I had no idea there were Pagan Pride groups in Cedar Rapids.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
What did you say? Pig and Pride?
Pagan Pride.
P-A-G. I can't even spell it. P-A-G.
Pagan Pride.
Pagan Pride. Yeah. And so I have nothing against pagans. I don't take any issue with their belief system, but it's not a belief system I'm personally connected to.
Now, when you say pagan, I think of pagan as just anything that's not Christian. That's how I look at pagan.
Yeah, no, there's a very real connection. Like, it's an earth connection.
It's an earth-based kind of religion.
Like Druid.
Yeah, it's an earth. Okay. It's not
Wiccans?
Druidism. That's separate. Yeah, but they're all kind of more along those lines of being very connected to the earth and the earth's energies.
But not. We're not talking the stereotypical Satan.
Yeah, no, it's not Satanism. That's its own classification of stuff. Yeah. No, so the pagan groups would come in and they would do fundraisers, or they would do different psychic fairs and whatnot. And I did one of them, and I just thought, this is just not energy that I am connected to. I'm just not, and I don't have any judgment for this, but I'm not going to participate in these events in the future, just because I'm not doing them any service by trying to, because I don't really feel strongly about what they're doing, So right. When I was approached again, I just said, well, here's why I'm not doing it, and it's not because I don't love you guys and don't want to support you, but it's just that it's just not my thing, and I think you're going to find someone else to fill my shoes. It's going to bring more people in. Yeah. I mean, let's just create the space for someone a little bit more connected and open.
Well, being honest and forthright like that opens up the opportunity for somebody else, and that makes perfect sense.
Something that Todd and I have both fallen prey to is I feel like we open ourselves up to the experience, that we're willing to go into it with an open mind, but we fall short, and we will leave that experience like we left the sweat lodge. I'm sitting in the sweat lodge. I'm shaking the fuck out of this rattle. My arms are getting tired. I'm having to shift hands. I'm really trying to get into it. Todd's like, what do you mean you're shaking the hell out of it? I was like, shaking the rattle.
I was you're like, with the rhythm of everybody else, and you're like trying to.
Yeah, but you, in this sweat lodge, it's completely dark besides the glowing of the stones, and people are saying they see spirits and all this stuff. And I'm like, God damn it! I want something extraordinary. I'm trying to place myself in the path of seeing something extraordinary.
You've been trying too hard.
I don't know.
I mean, Keena made a big point of when we talked with her about people losing the magic. We no longer think like kids, and we don't think of things as being like the opportunities that are there. We're so cynical. I know I am, for sure. So cynical and so kind of set in my ways about certain ways of thinking that I know I know that I don't allow myself to be open to have those experiences sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I think what happened, it sounds like to me, is you started to build an expectation.
Oh,
there you
absolutely.
go.
Is that this is what needs to happen, and if it's not happening this way, then I'm not doing it right.
So I'm going to shake that rattle.
So I'm going to shake the fuck out of this rattle, and it's gonna make a spirit appear to me.
If I just do it harder? If I just do it harder, I'm okay.
I mean, it's classic controlling. I mean, you're trying to control the situation, which was uncontrollable.
Yeah. And we talked about when we left, we're like, we tried to put ourselves in that spot, and we tried not to be judgmental. We did everything, and all these other people say they're having this experience, and again, we walk out of there going, didn't see it.
Well, but I think what I'm taking away as things go on, and the more experiences we have with those situations, or Samantha Harris, who's a demonologist we interviewed in Michigan, or sitting with Jennifer, is maybe I don't have to subscribe to anything in particular. All these experiences in and of themselves are beneficial to me. And if one does resonate with me, I'll know it, because I'm allowing myself to be out there. I'm trying not to, like you're saying, to have expectations anymore. I have to see this. I have to do this. I have to experience this. I'm just going to leave myself open, and when something strikes me, it'll strike me. And then I don't worry about it.
Because I think when you're looking for something, you miss what's happening.
Yeah. And maybe that is it exactly. Maybe I described it exactly how it went down. I also kind of felt like you know what? I don't expect anything, but the only way I'm going to believe it is if I see it.
You went in with classic agnosticism. I believe what you're telling me, but I'm not going to really believe it until you prove it to me.
And that's Rocky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a friend of ours named Rocky.
And
it's a Rocky course, and it is Rocky's point of view.
And that is just classic agnosticism, which is what a lot of people struggle with without even realizing. It's like, it's a classic. Well, yeah, okay, there might be a God, but prove it to me. Answer this prayer, and I'll believe it. Which is that's not fair, because that may not be what's supposed to happen for you.
Yeah, maybe my understanding of that, and I would say that yes, there is something that I know enough to say I don't know it all.
Yeah,
and that's why I think I'm an agnostic, is because of that. There's something going on. I'm just not privy to it, and I don't have to know. I'm okay.
Well, yeah.
I'm okay not knowing.
But that's not agnosticism. That's just faith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you're just like, it's okay. I just believe it's going to happen. I just believe something's controlling all this.
I don't think something's controlling all of it. I think that there's some kind of energy out there, but I'm not convinced that it's controlling everything.
Yeah. Well, and that may be poor choice of words, but just being able to say, yes, there's something out there, and I believe it's at work in some form or fashion. Would that be a more fair statement?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the dark side.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, no,
gotcha.
and
Shazam.
And what just happened, there would be a classic kind of exchange in a coaching session, quite honestly. It was like, okay, well, if that's not the words, then let's find the words that work for you. Because what you're describing, is the energy of what you're describing is not agnosticism. It's more like, I have a faith, but I'm not, it's maybe not easy to put into a box.
Oh, I can't even begin to try to encapsulate it somehow. You know what I mean? That's why it's hard for me to even call it a faith, because it's so nondescript.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the best kind of faith, personally. But
the nondescript kind.
Yeah. Because it leaves you open to being able to 1 week go sit in a sweat lodge, and the next week go get a tarot reading, and the next week go meet with a demonologist, and the next week, and just think there's no reason all of this can't be true.
Right.
And what's our favorite Native American saying? There's no answers to the great mystery.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows. Yeah. It's just, that's probably why I think I would fall myself along those lines the most, is a Native American way of thinking, because nobody knows, and they approach it that way.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the gems now?
Yeah.
I held off. I asked a question. I went a different route.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We held off. So I like them.
Yeah.
They're soft.
They're pretty.
They're pretty,
soft
and
pretty.
there's no jagged edges, and they're.
This women we're talking about, or the gems?
What? Yes, both. They fall in. What does what? Give me a quick little class.
Yeah.
And what like? How do you use them?
Yeah. So the basic premise is that all natural elements have energy. Is the basic premise. So trees, rocks, stones, grass. What's the difference between rocks and stones? I don't know. I always do that. But there's, all the elements have different energies. And so you've got 5 basic elements. You've got fire, water, air, earth, and space. So there's 5 basic elements out there. And so rocks fall most cleanly into the earth element, right?
I never heard of the space one before, so I'll look forward to that.
Welcome to my world.
Thanks.
So...
There's a little present right there.
Yeah.
It
kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and I'm not going to veer too far off topic, but with that, when I stepped out of, supporting the Pagans events over there, I created space. And so just created that space for someone else to move into. And so when you leave a void, kind of, the law of nature, when there's a void, it's going to get filled by something, whether that's air or, something else. But, so it's that energy that fills those voids. So, okay. So one of the easiest ways to decode stones is that I like to ascribe them is based on the chakra system. And so if you're familiar all with the chakra system, there's 7 major chakras in your energy system. And they start at the bottom with your root, your sacral, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat. Did I miss one? No, your throat, your third eye, and then your crown chakra. And each of those works to support different energies within your system. And so I've got a set of chakra stones that then follows that. And the really easy key for that, if you've ever been through kindergarten or the first grade or preschool, yes, okay.
Yeah.
So is
Sorry.
the acronym you get for the rainbow, which is Roy G. Biv, right? So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So you've got Roy G. Biv that just goes right up your chakra system. So that's an easy way to remember the colors. The red stones, any dark stone is going to be associated with your root chakra. And so red, the browns, the blacks, those darker stones are going to be your root chakra. And so like a red stone like this is a red tiger eye. No, this is not a red tiger eye. This is a red jasper. Sorry, a red jasper. It's going to be really supportive of the root chakra, physical security, families of origin, material security, emotional security, really good for those kinds of things to do. And that's just kind of the vibration that it's got. So if I'm having a rough day and I'm feeling insecure, I might grab this stone and just hold on to it for a while. Secret for women, if you don't have pockets, you can stick stones in your bra. And that's always a happy surprise on a first encounter of nudity with a man.
What the hell?
What have you got in your boobs
I don't stuff
today,
my bra with tissues. I stuff them with rocks.
It's funny. You're making out undo somebody's bra and on the floor.
You know what? Maybe someday we'll see like a comedy
Yeah.
where that happens, where he reaches back, undoes the clasp, and it's just like.
Yeah, that's happened to me. So then there's the next one up. Then is your
so they work. So
sacral.
when they follow you had an encounter, so they worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt much more secure then.
Heck yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
My root chakra was being all kinds of taken care of. So the next one up is your sacral chakra, which is usually an orange color. And orange is actually one of my favorite colors. And it's funny because I never knew this, but actually then you can tie all of your chakras to your astrological signs as well. and they all have different number vibrations and scent vibrations, and so it's kind of becomes a pretty integrated pattern there. But this is the Scorpio stone as well as being tied to the sacral chakra, which is tied to Scorpio. So that's my astrological sign. So orange is abundance, creativity, success is another attribute. If you think about the placement of your body, that's where your reproductive organs are, your creative organs are, connection to the masculine or feminine energy within. So that can be an orange. So this is, I like to use this when I'm really feeling a need to connect with that creative source. I'll grab some sort of orange stone or orange family stone. The next one is citrine, and citrine's a really cool stone that you guys should both actually grab one of, because they are the merchant stone. They're associated with wealth and abundance, self-esteem, self-worth, and it sits here in your solar plexus. This is my birthstone, so I've always liked this one too. So it's another one. And then your heart is green usually, and you can but you can also use like a pink rose quartz for that kind of energy, because rose quartz is a gentle love, and so pink is just, you think about it as soft, it's feminine, it's gentle, it's caring, calming. And so this is a bloodstone with the green, and bloodstones are also really good for blood. So circulatory, heart problems. I had a friend who had a heart attack really, really young out in California, and I sent him a bloodstone. So like, I just want you to put this in your pocket. He's got a heart condition that will follow him the rest of his life now. And so he carries this with him. He's like, well, he's, a bit of a skeptic, and he's like, well, it can't hurt, So that was his attitude with it. I'm like, it won't. So, so that would be kind of colors for that. Blue, this is a lapis lazuli. And blue was for your throat, and these can be great for communication, promoting communication, safe communication, speaking your mind, good for flow, just like any kind of flow. If you are feeling yourself getting like choked up and not wanting to say things when you go to say them, or stuttering, people stutter, this can be a good stone for that. Amethyst can be used in a couple different places. Some people use it on the crown. I like it on the third eye. It's a very good intuition stone. This is also called a sobriety stone. It's really good for people with any sort of addiction. So you'll see we have these word stones in metaphysical stores, and they'll be carved out of a flat piece of amethyst, and they'll say sobriety on it, and that's no coincidence. It's because of that. So amethyst is a great stone. It's a very healing stone. Amethyst is amazing to have. Every healer will have an amethyst in their room, just because they're such amazing stones to promote healing energy. And then the quartz is what I use at the crown. A lot of people will use another purple variation at the crown. I use a quartz because it's a pure stone. This stone, when put next to any other stone, will amplify whatever you're getting out of another stone. And so a quartz is what I use as a connection with the divine. So as you look at different families of them, there are books literally this thick that go through every variation of stone with 3 and 4 page descriptions of the stones. They will vibrationally, like I said, this bloodstone's really good for heart and heart function. So if you've got somebody that's got a heart problem, you'll give them something like this. Angelite, which is a lighter blue stone, is really good for arthritis, and I've got arthritis in my left shoulder, just left over from dislocating it and then beating the hell out of it, and so I'll put an angelite in this left boob cup, and it'll help when I've got arthritis flaring up. So hematite tends to be really good for negativity. Like if you're in a place where you're just absorbing a lot of negativity, you can grab a hematite, and they actually make rings out of hematite that you can wear. And I went through roughly 36 different hematite rings when I was going through my divorce and all that transition, because they just kept busting. So they would just absorb so much and then bust, and absorb so much and then bust. And it was just stress. It wasn't even that it was so confrontive. So that's just a few of them that come to mind. There's a billion of them out there, a billion different stones, literally. And like I said, book after book after book where you can find all of this great information. A really good one that I recommend to people is called the Crystal Bible.
The Crystal Bible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I have a link to that book in the description below.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it can work with stones too.
I was just going to say, is there, for skeptics, or if somebody were listening to this and they were thinking to themselves, you know what, I have an issue with that, but is it measurable? Is the frequency measurable somehow? She's talking about frequency. So how is this scientifically proven?
Scientifically, they have gone in and measured the vibrational frequency of stones. And you can go out, you'll see the different vibrations that they resonate to if you go out and do enough research on it.
If they really do resonate with different vibrations. Wow. Because, we're all made up of energies.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
The idea behind
it's just
it.
Energy.
Okay.
Yeah. If you think about it, everything in its basic molecular structure is just molecules.
Right.
You're right.
Moving around. The same thing with stones. They're just denser than my finger. Think about it.
That makes total sense. Well, see, that's some scientific proof that would make him happy.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you believe, you can kick in that placebo effect. Do you see like a lot of pendants being used with stones? Like people will change out like they have.
Is that why you're making what you make? Is it to do some of that, to have stones for people to wear or have, or is it more than just a creative side?
No, because I work with glass, and so. But what's interesting about that is
she's multifaceted, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there's a lot of I'm seeing, and I'm attracted to a lot of work that is both glass and stone. And so I've actually got some stones back in our drawers back there that I want to integrate with some stone pieces because I think it's fascinating. Just from a purely aesthetic look, I love the way it looks. But I saw a piece the other night that was a glass pendant, and it had a like a geode on the top of it. And so we were talking about that, and I said there's these little stones called spirit stones, and what they help with is journeying. And so when you go to do like a past life journey, or you go to do a soul contract, whatever kind of journey you're doing, those stones kind of support the journey. They help the energetic vibrations with the journey. And so I was saying, God, I would love to do a glass piece that was like a holder for those stones that you could then wear as a necklace, because they're beautiful anyway. They're just beautiful stones. And so so that's part of it. To me, everything I do becomes very, I just love the word integrated. I made that title up for myself. So, because I don't like things to be disconnected. I like them to flow. I don't work well when I have to switch from, all right, now I'm being a life coach, and now I'm going to go do glass, and now I'm going to go be a mom, and now I'm going to go, be a grocery shopper or whatever. My life needs to just kind of flow from one thing to the next. And so, for me to say that what I do as a glass artist is so completely separate from what I do as a life coach is ridiculous. I do a challenge in my Facebook group for my clients every month, and this month I'm giving them a bead lesson, because we do bead lessons in our glass studio. So I'm like, if you win this challenge, then you're going to get a 3-hour bead lesson with us. So it's just, I don't see any reason to separate the things. So.
Many podcasts ago, we had brought up the fact that we had stopped in and we wanted tumblers.
Yeah.
We were looking for unique tumblers.
We still want to do it.
We still want to do it, and we still are saving what is it? Bourbon? Whiskey? What is it?
Yeah.
Cedar Valley and Templeton Rye.
Okay.
Bourbon bottles.
I don't drink that stuff.
Too bad. Other stuff. It's good stuff.
Anyway, but we are saving those bottles, and you had said, you know what, we could probably do it for you, but why don't you come in and do it yourself?
We were both jazzed by that idea. Oh, that'd be so cool.
Is that like a typical thing in 1, 2, 3?
No.
Or is it 3, 2, 1? 1, 2, 3? 3, 2, 1.
123. Yeah. So, so my partner the other night, he is my teacher. I should clarify that too. But he had there was an artist from the Ceramic Center that she does these. She does both clay and glass together as pieces of art.
Cool.
And she was trying to figure out a way to cut some glass to make it do what she wanted to do. I wasn't here, so I don't know all the details. But either way, she asked him for some help. And so they came over here and were trying to cut the glass that she had. And the glass it was just exploding all over the place. I came in the next morning and the whole bench was covered just littered with glass pieces. And so typically what Craig does when he comes in is he will, before he starts this process, he'll just break a piece of glass to get it over with. Just like, all right, something's going to break tonight, so I'm just going to get it over with. And so he breaks a rod, and that's how he starts his practice that night, So we go through a lot of glass. But he, and I thought I was like, wow, he really needed to get some stuff out. I thought he just came back and, broke a bunch of glass. Just another night in the studio. I didn't even ask him about it. It didn't even, because I was just like, whatever. So this whole story came out later that this had happened with the artist in the Ceramic Center. I was like, oh, that's cool. So, yeah. So there's, So yeah, so there's, I mean, he's willing to, try stuff like that, but he's not going to, take it and say, yeah, I promise this is going to work, and,
Sure.
kind of risk going through, busting something up like that. But he's willing to support you having the experience.
I just want to try it. I'm just going to bring a bottle in and just try and see what happens.
Somebody would say, yeah, I'm good at something, and you want something. I could try it, but I think it'd be neat if I incorporated you into it. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that response from you when you said it.
I think what you'll find with us and the energy, especially that, because Craig and I have been working together for a while now, and what we really want is for people to have their own experience. I mean, that's a basic premise of what I do as a coach, is I'm not going to have an experience for you. I want you to have it. And so even with the art side of things, it's like, come and have your own experience with this. Yeah, you know what? You love the bees. You're saying you always wanted to do it. What are you waiting for? Like, we do a class for 3 hours. Come back and do it yourself.
Right.
You want to learn how to make hemp necklaces? Great. Come back, make your own beads, make your own necklace. We'll show you how to do it. Of course we want you to buy our stuff, but we also want, like, our biggest goal is to leave, when we eventually leave Cedar Rapids, is to leave like a whole bevy of people that are doing what we've been doing. And I have that same goal as a coach. I want other coaches to spring off of what I'm doing. Anybody that approaches me and says, how did you do it? I'm like, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. I'll tell you what I did. And then you can find your own path. I'll tell you what I did. There's no one recipe for this.
Right.
So I completely agree. I just completely support people having their own experience.
How long do you think you're going to be in Cedar Rapids? You're just leaving it open to what happens?
Yeah, I'm open to what happens. It'd be hard to say that I put a date on it, but ideally, if I were going to set an ideal date, it'd be 5-6 years from now, when my son's just at that perfect age to completely traumatize him as he goes into high school. Yeah. I'm just going to pay that forward.
So that's the one thing, is I told my kids are in the same school district.
Yeah.
And our plan is to keep them there. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I are talking today because she has some job changes possibly. Mm-hmm. And I said, would you want to move somewhere else? Mm-hmm. And she goes, to be honest, we're locking ourselves in if we stay in Cedar Rapids, mm-hmm. which we're okay with. Yeah. But the opportunity is all over the place. And I was like, the idea of moving is crazy to sound, and it's not even in the books or even an idea at this point. But, you do kind of restrict yourself in certain situations.
Well, yeah. I feel you, because when I sold my house, I lived on the northeast side. My son was very happily ensconced in Robbins in school at Westfield, and I was like, I'm not pulling him out of there. So I went through every hoop I needed to jump through to keep him open enrolled. So he's open enrolled there through 5th grade, and so as a result, his dad drops him with me on the mornings that he's had him the night before. I drive him to school every day. Every single day he's in the car with me, and we drive up. It's about a 20-minute drive. I live on the northwest side now, and it's a 20-minute drive every morning. One morning it was an hour when it seemed like every single route was closed to get there. But
yeah, I bet.
Those winter days we've had. But it was, that was important to me that he stay in that school. He needed something to stay stable when his dad and I separated. And plus, I bought my house in that district because I loved that school district. So I was like, why am I wanting to pull him out? So it's a number one factor for me.
Because I always tell the quick story that I did.
Is it quick?
Kindergarten, 1st grade in Reno, in 2nd grade. 3rd grade was here in Cedar Rapids, and so was 4th grade. Mm-hmm. And I did part of 4th grade in Vegas, San Jose, and Palo Alto. 5th grade, San Jose, and then 5th grade there, 6th grade there, 7th grade, Anamosa. 8th grade, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade in Anamosa, and 10th, 11th, 12th in D.C.
Yeah.
And so there's, and you look back and be like, well, I wish that hadn't happened. But I can handle transition well.
Yeah, exactly.
As an adult,
yeah,
right? And
exactly.
But there's part of me and my wife, we both say that we'd like our kids to go through school with their friends. We have, my wife in particular has great friends because she was in the same elementary school, same middle school, and they're all good friends still to this day. And I think it's good that stability is such a big thing for divorced kids. Man, oh man, that's so cool you guys are doing that for them.
Yeah, we try.
All right.
Should we let her go for the night?
We should probably let her
go
go
for
pretty
the
late.
night.
It's dark outside.
It's getting
Streetlights are out
in here. If you guys can't feel that.
Well, you got all the lights kind of on you.
Well, the AC went off too. So.
Oh.
I feel fine. I sweat no matter what's happening.
This is your normal temperature. Fucking hot. Okay, real quick. Jennifer, if people were listening to this and they're like, God, that sounded really amazing. I need a life coach. Or I want some glass made. Or I want to learn how to do beads. Where would they go?
Or
how would they contact
numerology.
you?
Yeah. So, I mean, if they're in Cedar Rapids, they can always come by here, Suite 123 in the Cherry Building. But online, you can find me at nolimitslifecoach.com. I'm on Facebook as No Limits Life Coach. I'm on Twitter at Release Limits. I'm on Instagram. I don't remember mine, but you can find us at Gathering Elements. I'm sure I have an Instagram account. I can't remember the name. But yeah, the easiest way is just to go to my website. And there's actually this really fun thing that I give away free called 30 Days of Living Dangerously, where you sign up and you get on my list, and I send you an email every day for 30 days with a new challenge of a way to find a different perspective in your life and a way to do something that's just maybe a little bit off of what you're doing now. So to get you out of that routine, out of that kind of drudge and droll of every day. So
You know what? And sometimes that in itself is ginormous. Because at one time when my wife and I were, maybe we were dating for 6 months, and we went out and got 101 nights of romance or something like that. Yeah. But you pull out if you haven't got this book, it's a neat book, and there's a lot of dates. Each page is folded, so you don't see what's going on the inside. And so on the outside of the paper, it will give you symbols like if you're willing to spend a lot of money, or if you need to be cheap, or if you can't travel. There's certain symbols that kind of say, okay, this is what I can deal with. Right. But you don't know exactly what the date is. Yeah. So to use that as your icebreaker, or as, this is telling me I have to do this. So we had to do like a water fight. Yeah. It was neat just to have somebody else, just to be able to blame it on somebody else, to give you that inspiration to do something crazy, something you would never normally do. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. Yeah. It just reminds me of 101 romantic nights.
And that's exactly the mindset, because it's so easy to just fall into routine and be totally unable of how could I even get out of this. So I'm like, just try it. I've gotten the funnest feedback from people too, because I'll be like, go do this and then tell me how it went. And I'll get emails from people with these funny stories about what they did. And it's just it's been a lot of fun. So I just rolled that out about 6 weeks ago, and I've had a pretty good response to it.
Yeah.
So.
Have you ever thought about writing? You ever thought about writing or putting things?
I do write. I do write something every week. I write an article and share that with people. I just actually started a 30-day blog challenge today with this group I'm affiliated with called Spiritual Badass. And it's really fun. Yeah. She
I like that
awesome.
Name.
If you guys are ever going through Omaha, I will totally connect you. Her name's Amethyst Mahoney, and she's amazing. So she is the epitome of spiritual badass. So she started this blog challenge. I signed up for that. I do have a book in the works. I've already kind of got the outline. I know what I want to do. It's really a matter of prioritizing that up and making that my focus. And I've been going through and just restructuring my business for since I kind of moved away from the center I was a part of and into my own. So plan to have that wrapped up by October 1st, and then I don't have any more excuses, and I got to write. So
that's right. And so but you have your own website.
I do. It's nolimitslifecoach.com.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to do this with us.
Yeah, Jennifer, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really fun. I didn't know what to expect, and you guys were
That's the best
as bad
part.
as Chuck said you'd be. So
But we never hit on porn.
Well, yeah.
I was hoping
we were going to be.
I was hoping the 8s had something to do with penis size, but I knew that was wrong.
What were you talking about?
The 8s that we got from the vibrations.
When she said 8s, I was like, yeah.
He just said penis size
like
and vibrations.
He looks like a snowman.
Yeah.
We didn't hit on any. Did we talk about porn a lot with Chuck?
No.
Then what's he so worried about porn for?
So there was this funny article. This is the last thing I'll say about porn. There was this funny article I looked up today, and I won't tell you why I looked it up, but somehow the Cedar Rapids sex shop came up, the one over on the northeast side.
Sure.
And it was this funny Tumblr blog that somebody had done about going into this place, and I was like, I was not reading it while driving, and I was dying laughing. It was like this guy, he's going through, and he's like, He's like, we go in there and my girlfriend's looking around and then we both notice the hallway. Then he's like got pictures of all this different stuff that he encountered. And I'm like, no, I want to go there because I want to see the hallway.
You're not kidding.
Maybe that'll be one of your challenges that you put out to people.
I'm going to have to go to a sex shop. Yeah. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my wife teases me because I bought one thing on adamandeve.com.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get 5 emails a day.
Yeah, they're ruthless.
Holy mackerel.
They're ruthless. Yeah.
Just because I bought this one thing to be funny.
Yeah.
I don't need anal beads. I don't need.
Yeah.
I mean, just like
Who doesn't need anal beads? Come on now.
It just catches me off guard because I mean, luckily I don't open my personal email at work very often. Sometimes you pull it up and I'm like, holy mackerel! I gotta be careful.
You know, you walk into an adult shop as a dude, or I should say this: if I'm driving down the highway and I see an adult shop like off the exit, and there's a guy with a truck, there's a guy getting out of his truck going into the porn shop. Immediately, I'm like, But if a woman gets out of her car and goes into the adult shop, I'm like, you go, yeah, you're adventurous. Oh, it's not
That's
right.
hilarious.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, one's a dirty old man and one's a fun,
An adventurous
person.
Someone you want to know.
Yeah. All right.
Exactly.
So let's we're
All
done.
right.
Hey, Todd,
Yes.
what are we working on right now? How are people going to get a hold of us? Unless, you know what, they stumbled across us on YouTube, maybe. Mm-hmm. Where else would they see us?
The best thing is to go to tpspproductions.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. While you're there, you can subscribe to iTunes and Stitcher.
There's
You can
buttons.
follow us on Facebook, and you can follow us on Twitter. Did I say Twitter already?
No.
Pinterest. We do Pinterest. I love doing Pinterest for our podcast. And be aware that coming up, there'll be a revamping of the webpage because Matt is kicking ass and taking names with a new website.
I'm having a lot of fun.
He's doing a fantastic job. I'm very, very excited about it. While you're on our webpage, you can also check out our new commercial that Aaron Bunce, being the wonderful human being that he is,
Totally surprised us.
surprised us the other day and made a
Aww.
commercial for us. He's just the most wonderful
Yeah,
guy.
it was the closest thing to man love that I've ever had.
It's been. I had a
was
grin. I had a
extremely
grin
touched.
on my face, like
The
the
whole time
entire
watching it.
watching it, and the entire day. Every time I thought about it, I just was like lit up.
but I
was
still
just
give him
so
a D.
Well, I still give him a D.
Still give him a D.
Yeah.
Inside joke. But, yeah, and listen, this podcast is the Primal Scream. It'll be on TPSP Productions Network, along with other shows that'll be on TPSP Productions.
Yep.
So we're not the only one, and then those shows will be coming soon.
Yeah. Slowly but surely.
But that's it. So, Jennifer, thank you very much for being here and coming in, letting us come in here and talk about crazy, amazing, fun, new, cool stuff.
It's the best.
Todd,
Yes, man.
thanks for showing up and getting everything set up. I'm so proud of you. You're wearing your big boy pants.
You're such an asshole.
Hey, we're 8s. I can totally make fun of you.
Straight 8s.
Straight 8.
Damn it.
No
I'm going to get a
polar bears
t-shirt.
here.
I'm getting a t-shirt that
I'm a
says
straight 8.
I'm a straight or just
I'm
straight,
a straight
8.
8.
Straight 8.
That's a great t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Copyrighted. Anyway.
Trademark. Yeah.
Trademark. So, yeah, that's it. I might, how do we sign off again? So I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
See you later.
Adios. We've only done it 50 times. Can I hit the